Ready? 7 o'clock? Okay.
Good evening. Could I have your attention, please? Good evening. I'm calling the budget public hearing in the town of Watertown on April 11th, 2024 to order. Please silence any cell phones that you have. We have budget books up in the front if anyone would like them. They're on the stage. I will read the call of the meeting. The Town Council of the Town of Watertown will hold a budget public hearing on Thursday, April 11th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at Swift Middle School, 250 Colonial Street, Oakville, Connecticut, to hear comments on the following proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budgets. Town General Fund, $37,385,893. School General Fund, $55,305,902. General Fund total, $92,691,795. Town Road Aid, $353,025. Water Operations, $2,847,474. Water Capital, $680,000. Sewer Operations, $2,934,354. Sewer Capital, $558,500. Water and sewer debt, $417,590. Crestbrook Golf Operations, $819,322. Local capital improvements, $239,307. Water extension, $521,924. And sewer extension, $100,000. The meeting will be conducted in person and available via Zoom in listen-only mode. A link to the Zoom meeting will be placed on the town's website, www.watertownct.org, under the calendar of meetings on April 11th, 2024. Anyone wishing to present written testimony may do so in writing prior to the hearing by emailing towncouncil@watertownct.org with budget public hearing in the subject line by Thursday, April 11th, 2024, or mail to the Town of Watertown, Town Hall, 61 Echo Lake Road, Watertown, Connecticut. For those attending in person, the public hearing location is accessible to persons with physical disabilities. If you require a translator or an accommodation for hearing impairment or other accommodation, contact the Town of Watertown at 860-945-5255. Dated at Watertown, Connecticut, this April 4th, 2024. Mary Ann Rosa, Town Council Chair. The return of notice, Town of Watertown notice of public hearing. I hereby certify that on April 4th, 2024, I left a duplicate copy of the attached notice of budget public hearing, Town of Watertown, Connecticut, with Lisa Dalton, Town Clerk. I further certify that on April 4th, 2024, I caused a copy of said notice of public hearing to be published in the Town Times, which newspaper has a substantial circulation in the town. I further certify that on April 4th, 2024, I caused to be set upon the signpost or other exterior places nearest the office of the town clerk and all other places and signposts designated by the town, a written copy of said notice of public hearing signed by the chair of the Watertown Town Council of the Town of Watertown. I further certify that all the above acts were done at least 5 days before the holding of the public hearing on April 11th, 2024. Dated at Watertown, Connecticut, the 4th day of April, 2024, Mark A. Ramo, Town Manager. Town Clerk certification as to notice of public hearing and return of notice. I hereby certify that the attached notice of budget public hearing and the foregoing return of notice of budget public hearing are duly recorded in the records of the Town of Watertown, Connecticut, and that Mary Ann Rosa was chair of the town council on the date the notice was signed, and that Mark A. Ramo was the town manager on the date of the return of notice was signed. Dated at Watertown, Connecticut, the 4th day of April 2024, Lisa Dalton, town clerk. At this point, I will call on the town manager for a budget overview.
Thank you. I would like to welcome town stakeholders to the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget presentation. I am Mark Ramo, the town manager, and will be presenting the budget on behalf of the Watertown Town Council. The agenda theme, putting all the pieces together, will cover introductions and an overview, discuss the crossroads Watertown is at, highlight secured grant monies for infrastructure improvements, review revenue and expenditures, examine the effects of the revaluation, and conclude with insights on integrating all aspects of budgeting for a comprehensive understanding. The Watertown Town Council comprises of elected volunteers who provide leadership and governance for the community's affairs. I'd like to recognize Mary Ann Rosa as the chairman, Ken Demers as the vice chairman, Jonathan Ramsey as a council member, Robert Ritalik, council member, Robert Hermdesina as a council member, Gary J. Lafferty as a council member, Anthony DeBona, council member, Rachel Ryan as a council member, and Karina Noyd as a council member. The Town of Watertown leadership comprises of dedicated individuals committed to serving and advancing the community's interests with integrity and diligence. Our town clerk, Lisa Dalton, Police Chief Joshua Berniger, Director of Parks and Recreation, Michael Ganem, Land Use Administrator, Mark Massoud, Finance Director, Assistant Town Manager, Sue Zappone, Fire Chief David Bromley, Director of Public Works and Water and Sewer, Gerald Jerry Lukowski, Water and Sewer Assistant Superintendent David McMahon, and our Fire Marshal Kim Calabrese. Informed decisions ensure proper stewardship of town infrastructure while balancing today's impacts and linking service levels to budget requests. Crucial for determining residential services. Budget decisions directly influence the service quality and amenities, necessitating stakeholders to carefully consider trade-offs, especially in infrastructure maintenance. Taxpayers aim to avoid tax hike. We all know that. Anytime we talk about a tax hike, we all know what the responses are from our taxpayers and ourselves as taxpayers. Yet, maintaining the status quo has resulted in negative growth within the operational budget, failing to meet rising expenses, salaries, and infrastructure demands. The decision-making process entails informing residents about the necessity of investment and facilitating challenging discussions to reach difficult decisions. Watertown must prioritize self-investment for sustained long-term prosperity. Watertown has been very proactive, if not aggressive, in securing state and federal grants, resulting in over $16 million secured to invest in our infrastructure, and this is outside of our budget. The Starbucks sidewalk with the rotating flashing beacons on Main Street, Hemingway Park Road, which will be creating additional parking in the area of the downtown of Watertown. School safety enhancement, where we've invested in additional safety measures so that the police and the school system can work more closely together to get first responders into the schools when needed. Our highway garage. Our highway garage maintains and houses all our equipment to maintain our roadways and infrastructure. It's housed in a building that doesn't even have water infrastructure or water suppression system. So these are the things that we've let go, and it's time for us to kind of start to address this, whether it's through a discussion or, as we've done here, we went after a grant and we secured a $500,000 grant to start making some improvements to that building as we decide what to do with the building itself. The Main Street RSA program, we've been talking about it a lot, but we're starting to witness some of the discussions to come to fruition, and we're working through these projects. Here are additional projects in process and being managed by staff. The Guernsey Town Road project is safety improvement. Wilson Street Bridge improvement. We had a bridge that was failing, and through our aggressive approach of going after grant monies, we were able to replace that bridge. Police communication, it's so important for us to take care of our first responders. We went after a grant and we secured $3.6 million to invest into our communication system. The Munson House, I know there's been some discussion about what to do with the Munson House, remembering that the Munson House, which is located at the Route 6 and 63 thruway for us, was gifted to the town. That's not a building that we can get rid of or the property that we can get rid of. So we went after a bonding piece with the state, and we secured $500,000, and we expect to begin construction on the outside of the Munson House in the near future. And we've secured almost a $3 million on ADA sidewalk connectivity. Why am I bringing all these projects to you in this budget presentation? Additionally, we secured money for the Steelbrook Greenway, which is under design after the town received a $500,000 grant, while other monies will be made available for construction. Also, we are in the design phase of the Naugatuck River Greenway, which boasts to be one of the most picturesque pieces of the NRG, the Naugatuck River Greenway Trail, a non-motorized multi-use trail being developed that will follow the river for 44 miles through 11 communities from Torrington to Derby, connecting those green spaces. Just as a reminder, as we invest into these pieces of infrastructure, we're positioning Watertown for economic growth. When you came in, you'll find QR codes at the front table, which will bring you to a link that'll show our capital improvement program. It's giving you a full understanding of all the projects that we are managing and working through on the town's behalf. On April 1st, 2024, the town manager recommended a budget to the town council, who subsequently adjusted the budget and voted to advance it to a public hearing, which obviously is tonight. The next few slides discusses the overview of that recommended budget. As far as revenue changes for the FY25 budget, property taxes increased by 2.3%. The state of Connecticut to school increased by 20.9%, which includes our ECS grants and non-public health and social service funds. State of Connecticut to town increased by 36.4%. which includes items such as payments in lieu of taxes, our pilot programs, motor vehicle cap reimbursements, and PQAT funds. The Board of Education remained unchanged at 0%, including items such as the latchkey program and community service reimbursements. Local revenues reduced by 13.7%, including items such as communication tower rental and conveyance tax. Permits increased by 22.7%. including transfer station permits, building permits, things of that nature. Police revenue decreased by 4.9%, including items such as pistol permits and parking tickets, and other general fund revenue increased by 60.8%, including items such as interest on investments and Taft contributions. As a high-level overview on expenditures, because department heads will present a more detailed budget presentation, for the FY24-25 budget are as follows. Personnel services increased by 8.4%. Employee benefits rose by 4.7%. Purchase services increased by 3.2%. Supplies and materials increased by 3.2%. Equipment and improvements decreased by 5.6%. Equipment and improvements increased by 15.8%, and other expenditures decreased by 3.3%. The Board of Education budget adjusted by council reflects an increase of 2.5%, and details of the budget, the Board of Education budget, will be presented by Dr. Villanueva later on in the agenda. The Town Council, upon receiving my recommended budget, met a week or so ago, and they decided to cut $800,000 from my presented budget. This slide illustrates some of the cuts that were made to get to the $800,000 point break. The majority of the cut came from the police department improvement, in which we were going to try and improve the HVAC system, which is in dire need of replacement, and the roof for the police department. That was the first place we went to basically reduce that budget number. That was the easiest place to go to start. All the exact reductions are in this presentation slide. Please feel free to review that. What is actually supported in here is in regards to personnel growth. In this budget includes transitioning a part-time inspector to full-time in the building department, a review of the management organization structure in park and recreation, a succession planning process in finance, and the addition of new positions in water and sewer. A chief maintainer and a business analyst is proposed to allow for additional work to address infrastructure improvements, and that will be addressed in more detail by the Assistant Superintendent, Dave McMahon, later on in this program. Not supported in the budget is one full-time employee for the Highway Department due to infrastructure priorities, and a request for 2 full-time employees in the Police Department, police officers. Last year's budget, we increased our Police Department by 2 police officers, and we will defer this increase during this budget. As an overall, the Town Council's recommended budget proposes a 4.4% increase to the town's budget and a 2.5% increase for the Board of Education, totaling an approximately $2.9 million increase to the budget overall, reflecting a 3.2% overall increase. We're going to talk a little bit about the 22-23 grant list, the distinction, which includes revaluation breakdown and its impact to our residents and business owners. The recently completed revaluation resulted in a 40.1% increase to the residential properties, including 1 to 4 family dwellings, which currently constitutes approximately 83.4% of the real estate assessments. I apologize, I hit the wrong button, but we'll continue to move along. Looking at our revaluation impact, the motor vehicle taxes, due to a reduction in the mill rate, we're going to anticipate that our mill rate will be coming down as a result of the increase into the values of our homes. The mill rate associated with motor vehicle assessment values, most residents can anticipate a decrease in their motor vehicle taxes. For example, based on the 2022 average assessment of a vehicle at $12,800, the tax would be approximately $415, while for 2023, with an average assessment of $12,100 for a vehicle and a mill rate estimated to be 28.35 mils, the tax would increase to $355, a reduction of $60 for the average vehicle. The comparison between average home values assessments for 2022 and 2023 shows a significant change. In 2022, with an average home value of $241,610, an assessment of $169, $127 is 70% assessment value, the tax amounted to approximately $6,200, based on a mill rate of 36.86. However, after the 2023 revaluation, the average home value increased to $346,000 with an assessment of $242,000, resulting in a tax of approximately $6,878. At the potential mill rate of 28.35, this represents a monthly increase of approximately $53 to the average homeowner. If you use the QR code they're located at the entrance when you came in, you could scan your QR code and they'll bring you to a calculator to use your own numbers to understand what the impact will be to you individually. This will all be posted on our town website so that any taxpayer would like to go in and see what the impact is. It would help them make those deciding factors. This is just a 10-year look back of the last 10 fiscal years. And although our budget has increased every year, there were times where our increases have outpaced the increase in the budget, so we had a net reduction in our budget, which has resulted in our issue with having infrastructure needs that we need to address now. This chart illustrates a 10-year retrospective of the overall Town of Watertown General Fund. What policy dictates that the town should strive to maintain an unreserved, undesignated general fund balance as of June 30th each year, equal to a minimum of 7% of the ensuing fiscal year's operating revenue, with a targeted maximum of 12% of the ensuing fiscal year's operating revenue. What does that all mean? This amount of, we're approximately at $10 million, or around 10%, and those are just rough numbers. So what I'd like to do is have department heads come up and present their budgets individually so that they could give you more details into their particular budgets. The first presenter will be Chief Perniger for the Police Department.
Is that going to be broadcast up to the screen? Terrific. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Town Manager Ramo, Chairwoman Marianne Rosa, and esteemed members of the Town Council. My name is Joshua Berniger, and I am your Chief of Police here in Watertown. I'll present to you tonight a brief high-level overview of the Police Department's proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget. The Police Department consists of 6 separate budgets: the administrative budget, the patrol detective budget, the maintenance and support budget, the traffic budget, our animal control budget, and a budget that covers our communications division. As you can see from this slide, our administrative budget has a nominal increase of 3.7% in the proposed upcoming year. The patrol detective budget, which is by far the largest of the 6 budget, covers the salaries of the majority of the employees in the police department, has a 6.2% increase. Maintenance and support budget, a 12% increase. Our traffic budget, 8%. Animal control, 3.9%, and communications at 15.3%. Although those, some of those numbers sound like large numbers, you can see by the actual dollar value that they compute to. For the vast majority of those budgets, the increase is actually quite small. The 2 budgets here where we're actually seeing the lion's share of the increases is the patrol detective budget and the communications budget, and I'll explain what the cost drivers are in those particular budgets in a moment. As a totality, when you put these 6 budgets together, we're looking at a 7.1% increase in operating costs for the Watertown Police Department in the next fiscal year. The dollar value to that increase is $447,039. This next slide just shows that in graph form, with the top bars there combining all 6 budgets into one and showing those increases. As you can see, the patrol detective budget, which is the second up from the bottom, is by far the largest budget of the 6. The other 5 combined don't even come close to the dollar value of the patrol detective budget. The increases in those 6 budgets are shown in graph form here. The orange is the patrol detective budget, where the largest increase is found, and the green is the communications budget. And again, I'll explain those increases in the next slide. For the administrative budget, we're looking at pretty much a $24,000 increase. This is primarily due to increases in the cost and value of our maintenance agreements for software and hardware products that the police department has for both criminal investigation as well as operations and network. The patrol detective budget here is where the lion's share of the increase is. That's a $285,887 increase. The vast majority of that, pretty much 90% of that, is all in negotiated costs within the collective bargaining agreement. They're getting a 3% raise, as well as other benefits, including a wage step compression, increases in uniform allowance, educational stipends, things along that line that were negotiated in the collective bargaining agreement. Also, as far as new vehicle purchases for the upcoming year, for the last several years, the police department has only obtained 2 new vehicles per year, which long-term is unsustainable for a fleet of about 30 vehicles. We are starting to get, our vehicle fleet is really starting to age. We have a few vehicles that date back to 2011, 12, and 13 that we're still operating right now that are due to be replaced. So we asked for 5 new vehicles. We have 4 currently in this town council recommended budget, which will get us a little bit more back online. We've noticed our vehicle repair count has been running dry very quickly each year with the amount of repairs that we're having to do on an aging fleet. The maintenance support budget, a nominal increase of $22,000. Again, this is where the increased cost to repair motor vehicles is coming into play, as well as we received in this year's fiscal budget all new dash cameras in our vehicles. Dash cameras are required by state statute. We did get all new dash cameras this year. However, when you get new dash cameras, they're beautiful dash cameras, but they transmit at a lot more data than our old cameras did. So we had to upgrade our connectivity plan to accommodate the amount of data exchange taking place between our patrol cars and our in-house network. So the connectivity cost did increase. Our traffic budget's our smallest budget. Traffic budget primarily covers the operation and electrical costs for the traffic signals in the town of Watertown, as well as some money towards temporary traffic control signage. The increase here is primarily due to the increased cost of electricity that I'm sure you all see in your own personal electric bills. Animal control budget has a very, very small increase. And that's almost entirely due to increased electrical costs at our animal control facility. And some of that money is also, post-COVID, we have a lot more animals that are being abandoned in town that we are having to care for at our animal control facility while trying to get them adopted out. So our veterinary costs have increased quite a bit over the past few years. We're hoping, as time moves forward, that we go back to pre-pandemic levels of animals being abandoned in the community. Lastly is the communications division. Here's another fairly significant increase in this division of almost $110,000. This covers our dispatch facility and the salaries of our dispatchers. They are receiving a negotiated 2.5% pay raise. However, this budget also supports the hiring of a communication supervisor as a new position. So this would be the only additional full-time employee that the police department would be obtaining out of this proposed budget. We feel that having a dedicated position to supervise our dispatch center is extremely important as we continue to make improvements in our communications room and move that forward. This concludes my presentation. As always, we at the police department thank the town of Watertown for the excellent support, and hope you all have a good evening. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the town council, town manager, and especially the citizens for coming out tonight. Jerry Lukowski, I'm the director of Public Works for Watertown, And I'm just going to do it just a little bit differently and touch on a few different major points that we have. So you can see our mission statement, but the big item for this is to take care of the town's infrastructure, to maintain it and improve it across the 140 miles of roads that we have in the town. Our long-term goals, we put together the CIP book, the Capital Improvements Program book, and it basically breaks out into three things: pavement management, stormwater drainage, and projects overall that you saw in the town manager's briefing. The other things we're trying to go after is efficiency improvements and training, safety, equipment, vehicles, and computers, and also our software programs with the new payroll system, new budget system, new work order system, and in this budget, I'm looking to get global positioning satellites for vehicle tracking of all of our highway trucks that we have for the town. This is a picture of the book. There's a few in the back hallway, and also as you were put out, there's a QR code for our CIP book. This is the first time that we consolidated it into a book. You could see our current projects that are under construction, our projects that we have in design, and also the projects that we're starting to formulate and to go after additional funding in the capital projects arena between the federal and state government. This slide kind of hits home. If you look at the orange line item, back in 1983, highways was 6% of the town budget. For the past 10 years, it's been hovering around 3% of the town budget. So sometime after 1983 to 2022, we basically lost half of our budget. And the yellow line item is we had 32 employees just in highways, and we lost 11 full-timers, down to 21 full-timers. Predominantly, this was when we went from 2 per truck to 1 per truck for snow plowing operations. But I always ask myself, are we designed for winter or summer? And we're only really designed for the winter time. We're not designed to take care of all the maintenance improvements across the town with the workforce of 21 full-timers. And on top of that, if you look at the left-hand side, since 1983, we added on 27 additional miles of road with all the new subdivisions that are across the town, and also all the additional detention basins, catch basins. And if you know the state and federal government, the amount of regulations, liability and litigations, intensity of the storms, which I'll have on the next slide, and also the expectation management of us maintaining our infrastructure has dramatically increased. Just to touch on pavement management, I would also like to say I have briefed this at the Public Works Subcommittee and also the Town Council, so I'm not really doing the deep dive. I'm just trying to hit some of the bigger picture items. But in 2022, our road surface rating was 61. The road study that we did is we need $45 million of current dollars in 1 year to bring it up to 100%. This past year, we did $2.5 million in bonding, town bonding, and $1.5 million in ARPA, and we brought it up to a 63. And this is out of a scale of 100. So basically, we're F in our roads. The goal is to get it to at least the state average, which is a 72. And if we fund it $5 million every other year or $2.5 million a year, it'll take us to 2032 to get to a 72. Each year we lose life on our road network. It's estimated we drop about 3 RSR points. So it looks like we gained 2, but we kind of gained 5 and gave back 3 just by the life of our roads. So this is one of probably the biggest infrastructure items that we have across our 140 miles of road network in the town. The other item that is hitting us is the past 7 years, the average amount of rain has been 49 inches, or about 4 feet. 2 years ago, it was 46 inches. In 2023, it was 69 inches of rain. And if you count to today, We've had 21 inches of rain in the first 3.5 months of this year. So that's and compared to an average of 11 inches. So we're coming up close to 100 inches of rain in the first 14 months. I'll add April into this, which is basically twice the amount of rain and also the intensity and the energy of each of and every storms. And you can see it in the amount of potholes that we have in a road where everything is washing out from that road network. And we do have plans, but it's going to take all of our plans. It's not going to happen. It's going to 5 to 10 to 15 years to bring our infrastructure back into place. This didn't happen overnight. It happened over decades. It just wasn't what happened this past year or the past couple years for this. And I don't like to get, if you read the national news, on global warming, and who cares? But I know right now it's definitely impacting us, and maybe it's just a cycle that we're in, but we're definitely, we face it each and every day. The items that I'm going to talk about for our budgets, I basically have 7 departments. I'll talk briefly about the top 6 departments, and then Mr. Dave McMahon, Superintendent for Water and Sewer, will talk about water and sewer. This is one of the line items that was reduced, very small. I don't even know why I put it up here, but it's one of my key things is training. We did reduce it from the town council's budget down to $6,000. I'm going to get to highways. I do like to show the picture of our garage. No fire suppression, no fire alarm, and the majority of our fleet is inside that garage. The $500,000 we're getting is really a new roof and some cosmetics. The roof can't support fire suppression hanging off the top of those trusses inside of that garage. The highway department, that was funded at 3% for at least the past 10 years. These are the cuts that we looked at. And I do have a summary at the end, kind of like a little bit reversed from what the police chief, and I got some lessons learned for the next time I'm up here for next year. But these are the items. A drainage master plan. It's the first time we started the first attempt. It's really a $4 million plan. It's really $800,000 a year if we did it over 5 years. I requested $250,000 for the first year to start it off. We're currently going to fund it at $150,000, recommended by the town council. GPS, that's the tracking of the vehicles. We're looking at $14,000 to do a portion of our fleet. It'll be the high dollar line items like our snowplow trucks, so we'll be able to see where they're at across the town. The skid steer, no paving, that's like the operational side. It's more of what we do for pothole filling. It's not the major paving that we have in the town. The skid steer, we're still going to purchase it, but it's going to be over a 3-year lease. I was looking at getting away from leases, from paying that interest, but we definitely need that item because it's more efficient for us to take care of the road network with the skid steer and the right attachments. The 6-wheel plow truck was removed. And also construction equipment, we asked for $250,000 and we're going to get $100,000 to replenish our equipment account for our more heavy construction equipment. The good news is we do have a new sweeper. We had 2 sweepers. Both of them could have had vintage plates on them for their age. We got rid of one of the oldest ones. So we just have one old one and we have the brand new one. So it did decrease the amount of maintenance parts that we need for our sweeper. This is kind of touches back to highway garage. Our garage was built in 1954. It's 70 years old. We probably had half the amount of road miles back in 1954. Definite live fire safety issues. And also, it's inadequate just about in every category that we have. It was tough news a month ago. We had the vac truck stored in a storage building, and just about everybody saw the news where that building did go up in flames. Our vac truck couldn't fit into our building. And that's why we try to maintain it and take care of it during the winter. I know this is something probably beyond this meeting, more of a capital briefing on looking for a new facility for a highway garage. Getting back into the operating budget, we're looking for cold patch, sand and salt. We're doing additional runs with salt, a lot less sand, so we don't have to clean up as much or fill all of our drainage ditches, but we can't apply too much salt to the roads because we have to be considerate on the environment. And plus the cost of material that goes up that we get out of the New Haven Harbor for our salt. The multi-hog was paid off. It's another piece of specialty equipment that we have within the department that helps with all the sidewalks in the town that we have to maintain. Solid waste, it was, we looked for an increase for maintenance of the property, mainly to keep it safe for the public when they're going to our transfer station, which is run by a full-timer and a part-timer, two great employees, both retired correctional officers, and they do a real great job compared to some other places that I've been to. Street lighting, we do have a, believe it or not, we're looking at a 4% decrease. This is due to we worked with a contract with a company that's actually charging us less than what Eversource would charge us. So at this current time, and like you see with your electrical bills, every month Eversource is going up, sometimes they go down, but we projected a 4% decrease for our street lighting. For tree removal, we're looking at, we don't have a tree crew. That would cost us a lot of money, so we do everything by contract in the town for tree removal for hazardous trees. So we're looking at a total of $67,500 to remove basically trees and also the ash trees. And I also asked in this go-around for $7,500 for our cemetery that's in the center of town that we maintain. The overall part of the budget, this year, I don't have the current year, I do have it written down. We're at 4.6 million, and with the town council recommendation, it's going to 5.143 million. It's an increase of 16% with a focus towards infrastructure. Thank you.
Which button do I hit to, just that one, okay. Good evening. Thank you, Town Manager Ramo, Town Council, general public, and stakeholders. I'm Dave McMahon, the Assistant Superintendent of the Water and Sewer Authority. So this first slide, so like Mark, and we're going after a lot of grants and a lot of funding through the state. So it's an 80-20 match. And then some of that can be a 50-50 subsidy grant. So like Jerry touched on the rain. So last year was a wet year. This year looks like it's going to follow that same path. The reason I have that slide up front is part of my budget projects has to do with I&I, which is inflow and infiltration. So this slide has a lot of information, but the key thing is this is for fiscal year 23. So we purchased 349 million gallons of water. We sent to Waterbury for the sewer collection side, 876 million gallons. So that's a difference of 527 million gallons. So you take what we purchased and then what we paid to have it treated, that comes up to 3.26 million if we were paying what Waterbury wants us to pay. It's a lot of money for I&I. So the focus is numerous projects have to deal with the infrastructure and both on the water and the sewer side. So the I&I is a problem that we have to address. And as we correct those infiltration issues and we bring that I&I down, that's going to save us money on the operations side, plus it's going to save what's on the maintenance side of the pump stations. This is a pilot program that I did on one of our worst manholes on Straits Turnpike. It cost us just under $10,000. We have other vendors that have been coming in to see what's going to be the best option for water and sewer. This graph is just a one-day event back on the 9th and 10th of January. On the left side, you'll see the up and down is normal, it's spaced out. The pumps are running, you know, as people are using the facilities and whatnot. Towards the middle and then to the right shows you how much the infiltration of the I&I is. And in the yellow and the blue on the bottom, you'll see how many times the pump station's turned on and off in the time frame. And if you go to the third line, Winding Brook 2, turned on 67 times over 5 hours and 4 minutes. That is, you know, that's a beating on the equipment. So we have to take that into account on the maintenance side of our equipment. The other part of this is we pay Waterbury for water. We have to perform annual hydrant flushing. So I just used a round number of 18,500. We have 660 hydrants. That equates to 12.2 million gallons on the low side. So part of a project that I want to put forth is we've already paid for the money. I don't want to waste it by putting it down the drain or into the ground. So that's what this is called. And this, all these slides, when it's put on the website, you'll be able to click on these links and you'll be able to see different videos of how this process works. And then other links are on other pages that if you're looking for additional information. What this truck does is it just runs it through a filter and just keeps recycling the same water over and over. So the lead service is a federal EPA and DPH mandate. So we have to have the inventory submitted to DPH by October 24. So we're in the process of doing that, and then the subsequent steps after we determine how many lead services are out there, it's going to be a multi-year phase. On an intermunicipal connection as a resiliency of the system, right now we only have one transmission main from Waterbury running down Main Street, basically goes by Fern Hill and then Carvel and then feeds Waterbury. Excuse me. So what I want to do is I'm proposing lines to connect to Connecticut Water if we go that route. We haven't got that far. I put the initial application into DPH to start that process. The other part of this is I want to have the resiliency. So on the other side of Watertown, on our Park Road end, there's another option to connect to Connecticut Water on that side. This way we have more than one option of water. If something should happen to the transmission main or something happens to any of the lines, we have a less than 2-day supply of water. So any major repair that is done that takes longer than that, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to deal with not having water. Another project I put forth to DPH, putting a new pump station running a line connecting the orange line, the first one next to the new pump station that I'm proposing is the 39-inch low service line. And then on Thomaston Ave, there's a 42-inch. So the resiliency I'm looking for is, we have the 36, but if something should happen to that, that was installed in 1944. I want to have the resiliency to make sure we have adequate water. So I put forth this application to DPH also for their review. The other project I put to DPH is I want to install a 36-inch butterfly valve at Fern Hill after the connection to Fern Hill. Here again, if anything should happen downstream of Fern Hill, we'd be able to isolate that and then still be able to feed our system. Right now, if something should happen, Waterbury would shut it off at the plant and the whole line would drain, and then here again, we have less than 2 days of water. So I'm gonna briefly go through this. What I did on my budget, because I have water and sewer line items, they're duplicated from each side, but the titles are basically the same. So the overview, even though on the bottom right, I'm looking for a 14.84%, it's actually spread out between the water and the sewer side. And those are the breakdowns on how that is equating. This top section is the utilities. The top two lines are what we paid Waterbury for last year and what we're proposing to pay this year. So the top one is the sewer. It was $1 million last year. We're gonna increase that to 1.25 million. The water side was 800,000. We're planning to do 1 million this year. And then the others is the utilities and the fuel and propane and gas. Lab, that went up for the significance due to the mandates of testing and the requirements of the cost of the different testing. This slide has a lot of information, so when I scrunched it on, because I wanted everybody to see all the positions on one slide. And you'll see that the funds and the titles are the same, duplicate, but the superintendent, I want to bring back the superintendent. I want to idle the assistant superintendent. I want to create the chief maintainer and the business analyst position. I'll get back to that in a second. The supervisor, and then we had a title change for the controller. So the office manager and the bookkeeper two is the controller position. And then the admin, the bookkeeper, the utility maintainer two. Right now, the increase on the UM2s is the third employee has met the criteria of the UM2. So hopefully by the time the budget passes, he'll be the UM2. The UM1 reflects where he's going to be moved to the UM2. The engineering tech one, the increase in that is due to the amount of projects that we're going to put forth and try to correct a lot of issues. Same thing with the inspector part-time. So the engineering, the lead service has some mandates that I'm going to have to pay town employees to perform certain tasks to meet that mandate. So that's what the increase is for, plus inspection. The custodian was at 1,500. I brought it up to where the individual's actually being paid currently, plus the raise. So that's what that big increase is. The chief maintainer and the analyst position, the reason I'm looking for those two positions is the amount of work that we need to do, the amount of projects that we're doing. I need people, one, DPH and DEEP require a lot of paperwork and a lot of tracking. The chief maintainer is more to help out in the field and supply the information that's required. This next slide here again has a lot of stuff. So I'm looking for 2 new vehicles. I want to replace the Ford Fusion sedan and the Ford Transit. The Transit is a small vehicle. It's old, and it doesn't do what we need as an operational standpoint for the department. The sedan, I want to get a vehicle that can be used by operational staff. The rest of this slide is the amount of projects put forth to deepen DPH. So that's why it's all on one slide. It's a lot of stuff, it's a lot of money, but we're going after the funding, and we're going to try to correct as many problems as we can, as quickly as we can. But it's going to be a multi-year, 5-10-year program. And then the rest is just normal increases that occur due to increases in insurance, materials, and stuff like that. Security cameras, we want to update the cameras that we have and get the newer technology to where we're complying, or we can say that we have good equipment, not just average equipment. And the fencing, same thing. Yes, we have some fencing. We need the adequate, correct fencing for our facilities. This slide is just, these are the two major components of the projects put forth. And then once this presentation is online, you'll be able to go through all these different slides, and you'll be able to look at whatever you want to see what requirements DEEP and DPH are requiring. So there's like, I don't know, 10, 12 slides. And each of those is a link, I'm telling you what we need to do. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Michael Gainham, and I'm here this evening to present the budget for the following divisions: Parks, Recreation, Crestbrook Park Golf Course, Senior, and Social Services. I'd like to thank the department staff, the finance office, and the town manager for their attention to and assistance with the preparation of this budget, both before my recent hire and since. I would also like to thank the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Commission on Aging for their dedication and advisement of the departments. Thank you to the town council members for your service, and thank you, concerned citizens of Watertown. I have witnessed to date that the 5 divisions of the Parks, Recreation, Senior, and Social Services and Crestbrook Golf Course are well represented by some of the finest team members in the industry. Each member of the team's commitment, enthusiasm, and professionalism are to be commended. The slideshow to follow contains a partial list of our parks and facilities. In addition to our athletic facilities, our departments help to maintain the outside of the library and the town hall, the open space at the Civil War and World War II monuments, and the gardens at Munson Park. Please also note a sampling of activities and programs, social and human services, and lastly, special community events. Crestbrook Park Golf Course, celebrating its 50th anniversary in 2025, is funded through a special revenue account, also known as an enterprise account. For example, the greens fees offset the operational costs associated with the golf course operations. We intend to boast about the 50th anniversary of Crestbrook Park, a park that is more than just a golf course, where one can also picnic, play tennis, or go fishing. With an emphasis on cross-marketing this milestone with all the divisions of the Parks, Recreation, Senior, and Social Services departments, as well as to capitalize on the momentum for additional economic development tie-ins. when we work together, be it as the divisions being presented tonight, or with other town departments, charitable foundations, and civic and community organizations, we will be positive in the results that the entire Watertown community will share. I will summarize just a few increases to our budget. Our increase in the budget is for this particular budget cycle is less than 1%, which we will highlight towards the end of the presentation. Part of our mission is to provide high-quality parks and facilities and a variety of cultural, recreation, and social services for all ages during all seasons. We strive to avail ourselves to each household in one way or another and at one time or another to utilize our resources. I just want to take a moment to, as Town Manager Ramo mentioned in his presentation, we're going to be looking at organizing or reorganizing the divisions, and to start that effort, an organizational chart is in order. The Parks and Recreation Department has over 200 seasonal and part-time employees that support our activities and our programs. I'd like to empower all of our supervisors who will be accountable to those that they supervise, and I think will make for efficient operations. Our parks include over 200 acres, plus the 250 acres at Crestbrook, 5 recreational athletic complexes and several pocket parks, numerous athletic fields and diamonds, 4 playscapes, multiple pavilions and gazebos, 4 lakes with waterfront, miles of walking trails, and the Bark Park Dog Park. We had over 6,000 unique registrations in the last fiscal year, that include residents and non-residents, and over 500 activities programs offered to citizens of all ages, and that's in the recreation division. Sports leagues and clinics include Watertown Recreation Swim Team and Clinics, where we serve over 150 households, youth basketball, in-town and travel leagues, serve over 350 households, karate lessons, 220 households, ball to you fall basketball clinics, 180 households, volleyball clinics, serve over 150 households, middle school running training, over 40 households, and gym time after school clinic represent over 100 households. Our youth programs that would be, I would consider not sports. And what I'm trying to do here is show you where we make up the 6,000 registrations. Our summer day camps, that's over 1,000 households that are served in our summer day camps. Our summer swim lessons at the high school service over 600 households. Obviously, we try to offer a variety of programs to serve different personalities and talents, and that would bring in our cooking classes, theater classes, play groups, scientist class, babysitting courses, and dance classes. Our adult programs in the recreation division include self-defense classes, yoga, dog training, Zumba, country line dancing, karate lessons, first aid and CPR certifications, pickleball clinics, open gym basketball, and adult lap swimming. And these are just a sample of some of our offerings. Our Falls Avenue Senior Center, in the reporting period of March 2023 through February 29th, saw members at nearly 600. Our participation for that year is over 12,000, and that represents about 250 unique sign-ins on average per week. Our transportation usage is almost 2,000. That would be one-way trips, and our municipal agent services, which include adult protective services, agencies and Meals on Wheels referrals, wellness and home visits, energy assistance application, as well as housing inquiries and support. Some of the special events and activities at the Falls Avenue Senior Center include the Senior Appreciation Luncheon, Blueberry Bake-Off, Sock Hop, Harvest Hoedown, Holiday Celebration, Valentine's Luncheon, Holyoke Log Cabin Dinner and Show, Clyde Cider Mill and Mystic, Connecticut River Boat Ride, Mother's and Father's Day celebrations, and picnic in the park at Veterans Memorial. Crestbrook Park Golf Course, as I mentioned, will be celebrating 50 years in 2025. And again, this is financed through a special fund account, also known as an enterprise account. And you can see the revenue portion of the Crestbrook Park on page 73 of the proposed budget. Our participation at Crestbrook Golf Course last fiscal year, or in the fiscal year 2022, 21,541, and last year, which would include, last summer, would be 26,442 rounds were played at Crestbrook Park Golf Course, and our membership went from 158 in 2022 to 204 in last summer. The revenue, as I mentioned, is you can see where it's broken down into green fees, surcharges, golf carts, range, gift certificates, and membership, and that's how we come to the numbers that are displayed on page 73 of the proposed budget. Our social services department has had 2,159 clients visit the food bank, 793 clients utilize other services, 250 clients were vetted for renters rebates, 115 families and 293 individuals were provided a Thanksgiving meal, 151 families and 292 individuals were provided with holiday baskets, 118 children were provided with toys for the holidays, 15 households received heating assistance, which includes, in some cases, servicing of their boiler or furnace, 78 energy applications were vetted, and 18 clients utilized the Munson Fund, which was established to assist clients with outstanding medical bills. Special community events that we invite all of you to participate in at one time or another include Night Out on Main Street, Zombie Escape Road Race, ice skating, Holiday Craft Fair, Touch a Truck, which is coming up soon, Don't Worry, Be Happy, which just occurred, Fishing Derby, which will be this Saturday, Earth Day Cleanup, which is coming up, Coolest Canine Contest, Entertainment at the Park, Battle of the Bands, a pool and poem party, Trunk or Treat, Tricks for Treats, Back to School Pencil Hunt, Friday Night Frenzy, Drool, in the Pool, to name a few. Special events that we partner with community organizations include the Shamrock Shuffle, Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans, Halloween at the Firehouse, the Santa Light Parade, Memorial Day Parade, the Fall Festival, Korean War Memorial Service, 9/11 Memorial Service, Special Citizens Christmas Party, Cookies and Milk with Santa, Wreaths Across America, Pearl Harbor Ceremony, Veterans Day Memorial Service, and Harvest Cruise Car Show. So the proposed budget increases are, as I said, nominal. At Crestbrook, we are trying to make an adjustment to be more in line with our historical expenses for an increase to $25,000. Advertising and the 50th anniversary, we're trying to branding, therefore some new signage and increased marketing will be expanded for the course's 50th anniversary, which ultimately, hopefully, will bring more visitors to the course, which will sell more passes and be a benefit to all of the divisions. Our chemicals at the golf course have gone up. I think that's partly due to some inflationary pressures and also to match and to realign the historical numbers. In our parks division, our vehicle maintenance, our fleet of vehicles is sometimes requires the service of an outside vendor. The age of the fleet on average has increased. Inflationary pressures have contributed to this increase. We have a new 3/4-ton pickup truck, which is a lease that wasn't in last year's budget. And we have a pickup truck that represents a yearly payment. And finally, in our senior services, vehicle maintenance, we have the age of the fleet for the senior buses is increasing. Maintenance costs are increasing. We have applied for one grant just recently, and we'll be applying for another grant. So hopefully as we get approved for these grants, that cost will, down the road, decrease as we replace the fleet. The town manager has recommended a reduction of $5,667 that will impact the senior center operator, which represents our transit drivers and transit staff. The senior center has experienced an increase in the number of rider request activities and the number of participants. Doctor's appointments are the top of the list. The adjustment to this line item may require the department to limit the number of staff hours invested in trips and special events. There will also be the opportunity costs associated with just simply parking the fleet. Restoration of these funds will ensure that we can continue to research and develop trips, programs, and special events for the equivalent of an additional 30 to 36 days a year. So thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to present this to you.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the town council, town manager, and the town taxpayers for the support of the fire department and fire marshal's office. Tonight, I just want to give you a brief overview of what the fire department is and what we do and the increases we've asked for. What you see here is the fire department is celebrating 130 years of service this year. What you're seeing is the fire people from the federal government showing the little firemen, which is our fire department, what you need to do throughout the year. And oh yeah, this year OSHA decided to step in and they want to change the rules that were established in 1980 and are changing the ways we're going to operate and train. The fire department are volunteers serving in the community since May 8th of 1894. Our current membership is allowed to have 120, but we have 85 active members right now, 10 more than last year, with 56 being EMS certified. Again, 6 more than last year. Our administration is staffed by a full-time administrative assistant, full-time fire marshal, part-time fire marshal, part-time fire chief, and a part-time deputy fire chief. 75% of the nation's firefighters are volunteers. It is estimated Watertown has a $5 million annual cost saving versus career. That with the response time your volunteers give, many residents believe they have a full-time fire department. Some of our members train extensively online and in person. In 2023, members who are volunteer logged over 2,600 hours of volunteer training. We do public education. The firefighters, along with the fire marshal's office, visit each daycare, preschool, grammar school, and parochial school during the October Fire Prevention Month. The department also hosts an open house for the public to learn about fire prevention and how the department performs and distributes smoke detectors for those in need. These are some of the incidents we've happened along Main Street. Last year, we responded to 3,083 fire, rescue, and EMS calls, which is an increase of 101 incidents from 2022. This is an overview of what we've asked for and has been approved by the council. The increase in the fire marshal pay, which is comparison pay, when the fire chief left 5 years ago, it was asked at that point to make the fire chief and fire marshal full-time with benefits and a salary, but that was not done by the town council. So a comparison was done and the fire marshal's pay was asked to be increased by $15,000. Along with the deputy fire marshal's pay is being increased with a 3% raise. An increase in the deputy fire chief's pay to equal the deputy fire marshal, which was made an adjustment when the deputy fire marshal was hired, and a $15,000 increase for the fire chief, again with comparisons that were done. And you can see the percentages on the right-hand side. We asked for an increase in reference materials, an increase in the LoSAP program for firefighters, which is a 401 plan for those who participate and meet the criteria. Currently, 95% of our volunteers meet the criteria. An increase in hose testing, we have to have our hose tested annually. An increase in medical services, which is our physicals for our firefighters, both current and coming in. Unfortunately, we lost our department doc who was here, and he retired, and we had to go out and get another vendor.
increase of $32,000, which is a 3-year lease purchase for a new EMS unit, which is on our regular annual schedule of replacement. A $4,000 increase in maintenance not buildings, which is for testing of aerials, pumps, ladders, and SCBA, which it just costs to go up. And a $4,000 increase in equipment, parts, tires, meters, extinguishers, those go up as well. The comparison pay for scale for the fire marshal and fire chief is on the average of $15,000 less than the bottom line end of the current scale that was compared to for towns and current departments in our town. That allowing the adjustment will only bring the fire marshal and the fire chief to the low end of this comparison scale and should be continually monitored for the future budget cycles. Last year's budget was $1,055,054. The current budget is asked for is $1,144,833, which is an increase of 8.5%, roughly $89,779. The Watertown Fire and EMS services continually serve the town of Watertown and Oakville and those that pass through, with members putting themselves in harm's way daily. They respond to fire and medical emergencies incidents and treat residents who are testing positive for COVID-19 and other diseases currently. The Deputy Fire Chief, Fire Marshal, and I have presented a responsible budget request. The fire department last year, in fiscal year 23-24, was asked for a zero increase, as all departments were, which the fire department was not only did, but was the only department to do so, with a zero increase last year and a further reduction in that budget by another $5,000 in an effort to help the town financially, which delayed some of our projects. There were most projects completed and a budget presented that is basically responsible. The Deputy Fire Chief, Fire Marshal, and I will make the budget work and ask that the town and town council reinstate the cuts made of the full-time fire chief position of $10,302 and the $50,000 for the vehicle replacement fund and ask for no further cuts. That this vehicle replacement fund is something that we have currently, which replaces our apparatus in a 25-year cycle. By continually reducing this, it's going to cause us not to have money there to replace equipment. Right now, the next vehicle to be replaced is a Rescue 10, which currently right now will be replaced when it's 29 years old if we continue did not fund this properly. The fire department stands ready day and night. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to kind of wrap this up and bringing it all together before we turn this over to Dr. Villanueva and her presentation. But this budget proposes a change to the historical trend of prioritizing flat budgets, which has led to a compromise in our infrastructure maintenance. The overall presentation underscores the necessity of making difficult decisions to tackle pressing infrastructure challenges. Specifically, there is a focus on improving budgeting processes through, apologize, I'm having a little problem here with my notes. Specifically, there is a focus on improving budgeting process through the implementation of time-saving software and a thorough review of procedures so that policy and procedures can be updated and memorialized for succession planning for the town in general. In addition, the town will go through the exercise of a zero-based budget process for fiscal year 2025-2026 to help mitigate the loss of revenue anticipated due to our mill rate falling below the state motor vehicle cap in fiscal year 25-26. I'm confident that our efforts should signal the importance of addressing infrastructure issues promptly and efficiently to ensure Watertown's long-term sustainability and functionality. In hindsight, it's easier to understand that deferring upkeep jeopardizes safety and passes on costs threatening Watertown's long-term viability. To ensure sustainability, direct increases are necessary for urgent needs, including substantial road investments. As we move away from the budget process, further discussion is needed to prioritize and manage the debt services to address vital projects such as road repairs, the police department, community center, and a highway garage. This budget cycle is an important step towards those discussions. Watertown is dedicated to sustainability through leadership, emphasizing the memorialization of policies and procedures through an in-depth review and documentation. Our efforts also have focused on enhancing efficiency through software and process improvements, ensuring accountability and coordinations of messaging while focusing on infrastructure. All these initiatives aim to foster the grand list growth for true economic development. We will continue improving communication among staff, boards, and stakeholders, which will better enable responsive development through a proactive approach, as has been recently demonstrated with the Town and Board of Education through a health insurance savings. The proactive stance is crucial for our stakeholders in attracting economic development to our remaining land, which is so important for our sustainability. Just to clarify regarding the water and sewer it operates independently from the general fund as an enterprise fund. Recently, the WSA has conducted a rate study and have adjusted rates to mitigate for the pending dispute with Waterbury over rates. Aggressive infrastructure improvement efforts, specifically addressing I&I, are currently underway with a focus on improvements to infrastructure to offset and reduce future costs. I encourage you to go on to the town's website and look at the presentation created by our assistant superintendent. There's a lot of details in there that'll kind of give you a direction on what we're trying to do. Just a quick overview, we're trying to mitigate the cost to offset the cost to the ratepayers. If you have a moment, please look at the website and go through that presentation. This presentation aims to engage stakeholders for future success by emphasizing the importance of discussing budget priorities and infrastructure investment. Working towards stabilizing the budget and making informed decisions crucial for the long-term community prosperity. Together, we ensure continued well-being. Thank you very much for taking the time to come out tonight. I know it's a little weather is out there, but our department heads, as you could see through their presentations, work very hard to produce a product for our community. So thank you for your time. Dr. Villanueva, I promise to step aside.
Good evening, members of the Town Council, Board of Education, and colleagues from all of our town departments. Just like you, I'm here this evening to present the FY25 Board of Education recommended budget inclusive of $800,000 worth of reductions. I would like to start just by thanking all members of our Board of Education who are sitting over there and members of our Town Council who are right up at the front here for the hard work that we do each year, annually, to prepare a fiscally responsive budget for the community of Watertown and Oakville. It's hard work. It's detailed work and work that takes on much scrutiny from the public. And so not only do I thank you, but I look forward to more collaborative thinking, just as Town Manager Ramo has mentioned some of the partnerships that we've been through this year as we move forward with a positive budget that impacts the families and members of this community. I'm going to jump right into it, right out of the gate, with what our investments were this year. We had a pretty phenomenal year. As you know, last year's budget was fully funded for our Board of Education. The Watertown community has been known perhaps for, and this is something to be proud of, but also something that comes with ripple effects, is staunch austerity when it comes to budget. And so there has been fiscal practices, and last year schools were able to achieve many goals because of the budget that was passed. This is not inclusive of everything. But our current budget that we are living right now has allowed us to fortify our foundational aspects of teaching and learning across the district, which is what we are here for. And it made a huge dent in our ability to begin restoring and repairing critical areas that directly impact student learning. As a superintendent of schools, as an educator, our goal is ultimately to provide the best education for our children. And success is ultimately measured in many, many ways. But at a minimum, we want to make sure that our student experience is a positive one, a rigorous learning opportunity, and something that builds them into sophisticated, contributing citizens of our community. And we want our children to excel academically, socially, athletically, musically, in every possible way that they study. We want them to pursue what they love. And when we have the resources and when we have the materials to provide our students in the classrooms with those experiences and opportunities, then we start to see the gains in their outputs. We start to see the gains in their outputs in academics, in athletics, whatever it is that they put their mind to. And when we don't have those resources, you can see sometimes what has been experienced over many, many years, where things can plateau or sometimes things can decline. But we are making strides forward, and we're very proud of that. The original recommended budget was for a total of $56,105,902, which was a total increase of $2,148,833, which was 3.98% of an increase. I've said this in previous meetings, but without touching any other departmental funds and only absorbing contractual increases, and we have 6 collective bargaining unions in our Board of Education, our budget would have come in at a 4.28% increase. However, we found efficiencies, just as the town manager mentioned, in our health insurance fund, and this year, that is how we were able to propose a recommended budget of 3.98%. And again, we follow a very strict zero-based budgeting process. With the $800,000 reduction, however, our original budget will then decrease to $55,305,902, which would then be a total increase of a 2.94% increase over last year. In order to make that happen, $800,000 looks like this from the Board of Education. You can see that we are about 10.5 FTEs deep of reductions, and you see some of the kind of slices off the school building budgets, which are not very large to begin with in the first place. When we follow a zero-based budgeting process, it means that we start from zero and we rationalize and justify every single dollar that we request. That means there's no padding, there's no fluff. And so this is ultimately what a 2.94% increase would look like with reductions next year. So tonight, rather than me talking about kind of what we do every single year, which is, talking through cuts, I'd actually like to provide a slightly different perspective, not just for the Board of Education, but for all of our departments sitting here, that we might be able to actually change the cycle of what we do annually in putting forth, which I believe all of us do, is a truthful and honest and genuine budget. And then afterwards, we all sit here trying to find things that we want to cut out because we want to find out what's filled inside that doesn't need to be there. For the schools, there's often much scrutiny and much conversation in the community around this time of year, every year, about one of the largest myths in Watertown. And I'm going to call it a myth because I am somebody who's actually extremely pragmatic. And as your superintendent, I look at things very realistically. And if there's something that I can do that is considered hard work and a hard decision, you've hired me to bring those decisions to you. But when they're not possible or they're not realistic, it's also my job to share with you that things are not necessarily doable. And so to begin, many times do I hear people say, close the school, and you'll save money. Close the school. Because our buildings were built for a much larger capacity than what they have in them now. I am here to tell you tonight that closing a school is a myth at this time for the Watertown Public Schools. We strive to provide optimal learning environments here in the Watertown community, and we're not really meant to be going backwards to follow an antiquated factory model of schooling. We may all remember this picture, I certainly do, whether we were sitting and proctoring for an exam or we went to school a long time ago. This is not a picture of what we don't recognize today. And in this day and age, however, schooling doesn't look like this anymore. Optimal learning environments are not the factory model. Optimal schooling requires collaboration group space for students with disabilities and other differences and exceptionalities. Open learning experiences where students, faculty, and families can congregate to build a rapport around experiences of schooling. Optimal learning rooms are environments that are not factory model replicas at absolute building capacity. Just as a restaurant has an absolute building capacity based on construction, it still has to have tables and chairs and places where people can have a cocktail on the side. And so, just as schools do, there has to be space for teachers, teachers' desks, faculties, a cafeteria for a kitchen, equipment. It must have open spaces for classroom libraries, office spaces, which I just mentioned. And again, it's not an exact number of capacity for students that reside in them. And so I encourage our community to consider a different perspective. Rather than cutting, let us bust a myth about closing a school, because an optimal learning environment is not the factory model. We have to also understand that when somebody wants to close a school, the children still exist when you close a school, they don't disappear. And that means that you have to move them somewhere. And if by chance we were to move the smallest school in Watertown, and that's just about 300 students, to relocate them to another existing school, and this is not actually totally accurate, it's in approximations and doesn't include everything, but some ideas, we would have to expand an existing school site to do the following: to add 18 to 25 modular classrooms to the existing building structure according to all state regulations and code. We'd have to lease these classrooms because we wouldn't be able to afford the cost of them right up front, year over year over year. Then we'd have to ensure that there was enough actual geographical land or space to even accommodate the building structure and expansion, which when you look at the spaces, there is not that much acreage to be able to do that type of expansion. And in addition to that, when you relocate a pocket of 300 students plus faculty and staff, you also increase traffic needs and the impact on surrounding residential homes, transport students further from the neighborhood school. The list goes on and on and on and on. So let us please bust the myth that closing a school is a way to save money. It is not. Based on our enrollment report that we just recently completed, you can see that our enrollment continues to plateau, if not slightly increase over the next 5 to 10 years. Closing a school right now would be detrimental to any type of community investment. And right now we are able to manage and offer very reasonable class sizes in the town of Watertown and Oakville. With the closure of any school and with the reduction of many of the faculty and staff that I've put up there tonight, class sizes will immediately increase because there's a direct impact to that. So this next part, you may be wondering what it is that I'm trying to explain, but there is reason for it. What it has to do with budget is tonight I was trying to offer a slightly different perspective on how we can go about budgeting as opposed to just looking at cuts, cuts, cuts. This is the picture of a plant. I actually have a plant that's identical to this in my office. It was given to me on my first day here in Watertown. And it is perhaps the most resilient plant that I've ever met in my life because it's still alive after 3.5 years. So that says a lot. Anyhow, it is watered. The leaves are standing straight and the sun is shining. But because I'm not a plant person, oftentimes I forget to water this plant, and it starts to look like this after a little while, after a week or two. But as long as I get back to it and I don't leave it for much longer and I give it some water, it seems to recover. It's fairly resilient, and it does recover. But sometimes it gets so busy when I'm barely in the office and I'm in school buildings that I forget about the plant and I really don't water it, and it starts to look like this. And the leaves become brown and dry. And at that point, it's not recoverable, at least the brown leaves aren't, and I have to actually remove the dead leaves, cut them out with a pair of shears, and then you give some water to it and it kind of bounces back again. But there's still a moment in the back of my head where I'm thinking, ooh boy, did I kill it completely? Is it never coming back? So I want to give you this analogy because like a school budget year over year, we offer only an annual look, although a long-term look is necessary. Sometimes over the years, we can have fully funded budgets or drastically cut budgets, or perhaps just years where we're trying to maintain and hold steady. But whatever the cause may be, the plant, or the analogy of our schools, has a really hard time when we have really high pitches and lows in our budgeting. It impacts everybody in the school district. It impacts our municipality. It actually impacts our bond rating. And if you're not familiar with what a bond rating is, all municipalities, including boards of education as part of those municipalities, get bond ratings. This is just a simple table to share some of the organizations that rate municipalities. It is always in our goal to try to be in the top tiers of a bond rating for a municipality. However, if your school district has to come back to you year over year for an appropriation, additional monies that we don't have, or we are pitching high and low in budgeting, we are impacting our bond rating. And so by minimizing huge swings in our budget and holding steady, steady does it is the saying, and it really does mean something, and by mitigating additional appropriations when we have a budget that's too tight, ultimately we will demonstrate fiscal discipline and we have an opportunity to start to right that ship in a steady type of way. So that is a different perspective on, rather than thinking about cuts, how does having a more steady budget experience year over year impact us in a positive way? So rather than cut, here's another thing. We bust a myth, we try to be smart, we try to be strategic. How do we increase efficiencies away from students? It's hard to take paper, pencil, crayons, scissors, experiences, field trips away from kids, but we can do detailed reviews of joint fiscal services like we did this year in health insurance. We can take a look at our vendors. We can take a look at fiscal practices, and we can provide some sound opportunities for greater efficiency. We can collaborate as a partnership of town and Board of Education to find more effective practices to financial investments. We are talking in the millions here when we are combined. There is economy of scale. We can examine contracts and unnecessary fees and charges. We can determine how economy of scale impacts us. And rather than cut, even though we are annual in our budget cycle, we can plan for the future. So you've heard the word fund balance. On a Board of Education side, sometimes non-lapsing accounts can equate synonymously. And we can consider how long-term funds and debt service planning can produce greater returns in times of catastrophic hardship. And for us in Board of Education terms, catastrophic hardship can sometimes be health insurance years that are tricky, or it can also be years where we get hit with a lot of unanticipated students with high special education costs. And that's a reality in a Board of Education. So what we do know is that we don't want to wait to the very end. We need to be prepared. And so long-term fund planning is important for us. Our Board of Education is highly focused, and we have 4 very, very important goals that we dedicate all of our time and resources to. You've seen these goals before. The first is to always increase student achievement. And like I said, having the resources, having that consistency allows us to make small gains. When there's a lot of pulling back or when the resources aren't there, then we plateau and sometimes we can decline. But our goal is ultimately to increase student learning achievement and to cultivate the characteristics of the citizens we want to graduate from our schools. And we do this by giving them those great opportunities. The second goal is to ensure that our families, our community members like you, feel like they have a strong communication and a strong culture and climate within our Watertown Public Schools, where they are maybe a valued employee, or they can be a loved family, or where they can know that they have a successful student being educated. Our third goal is about continually supporting and cultivating innovative and research-based practices in our classrooms. We are not the factory model. We do not want to be the antiquated school district. We want to be contemporary. We want to be cutting edge. We want to be innovative. That's an excellent education for our kids. Oops. And the fourth one is the most important, perhaps, because that's why we're here tonight. We're here to uphold and reinforce a focused and fiscally responsible budget for our community. And so we are also trying to become sustainable like many of our other departments are. We are also aggressively looking at practices and trying to make every return for the Watertown community. Every dollar we get back, we want to put back in our classrooms. And we know, just like our vision says, that every classroom, every child, every day takes resources and funds and people who are committed and dedicated to the building. People who are committed. That's the really important part. And so I thank you on behalf of our schools for being with us on this journey as we continue to set out our goals. As you've also heard here, a return on investment is really important for our school district. This is what we are hoping and strategically planning to invest our resources in this year if we are fully funded. You can see there is a whole slew of things that we want to put our dollars towards, but that right box over there, the special education expansion of programming, is really, really important to our district. Watertown Public Schools has been dedicated to increasing and expanding their special education services so that we can educate our students in our community and simultaneously reduce very high costly outplacement costs. And over the last 3 years, we've done extensive building. There was also building prior to my arrival here. And next year, we plan to expand by 3 programs. And by doing that, we will mitigate a lot of outplacement costs. One student ranging between $60,000 to $200,000 per tuition. We can mitigate at least 8 students next year by building those 3 programs. So this is just a really busy slide, but a really important one that our special education department put together to demonstrate just how much we are expanding in our programming, specific to our students with exceptionalities. And you can see that even just those 3 programs building, we are keeping our students in-house and we are mitigating those costs. We also have an increase in our families who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. This is a real phenomenon in our Watertown Oakville community, and we are providing an opportunity for our families who are experiencing financial hardship to have subsidized food throughout the year. And that is beyond the federal free and reduced lunch opportunity. And so we have also embedded into our budget opportunities to help offset some of our families who are having financial hardship. And state funding, what is new, has been flat for the last 10 years. We do think that we're going to get a little spike this year to the good work of our legislators. But after that, it will most likely plateau again. And so that different perspective tonight is so that we can try to take off the burden on the taxpayer and try to bring new ways to think about a budget, not just cut, 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 cut. And so the bottom line for us in our school district is the business of teaching and learning. We're here to implement an excellent education for all students. We're here to cultivate a fair and high-quality work environment for all of our employees. We are here to operationalize all federal and state requirements outlined by the U.S. Department of Education and the State Department, and we are always here to serve the families of our community. If we are funded at the recommended level, not at the reduced level, 76.25% of our budget will go to salaries and benefits. Next, to transportation, we are up for bid for a new transportation contract, so we anticipate there will be a spike in that. Special education, you'll see that we have an actual slight reduction, although volatile, slight reduction because we have that programming being built. And then everything other, including facilities, includes curriculum, technology, facilities, all those other things. This is also a busy one, but it's an important one. So I was asked to do a DIRG-D comparison. That is our DIRG, that is districts in our like income range, ranked by how many schools that we have so that we're similar. It wouldn't make sense if I compared us who has 5 schools to somebody who has 8 schools. So here we are, the yellow band here. These are schools similar to us who have 5 schools. You can see, and where you see the parentheses where it says 2 years ago, that was their budget number 2 years ago. So that means last year's budget was higher and this year's budget will be higher. Based on this, we are the 3rd from the bottom budget in education compared to these towns. That doesn't mean we're in a bad place. We are in a great and wonderful opportunity to provide for our families the way that we do each day. But it also shows that we are not at the top. So it's a nice comparison just to know where we are. Because sometimes we think we're at the top, sometimes we think we're at the bottom. We're neither, kind of like right there. So I want to thank everybody tonight just for taking each step with us. Each year we take multiple steps, and last year, the year we're living right now, we really feel like we've taken a big stride. So thank you for that. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any of them tonight.
You're here, I think, Jonathan. We would like now to invite any of the public that would like to address us to come to the microphone. I believe it's the freestanding microphone. Yes, please. We'll need your name and address if you would.
Jeff Damaris, 294 Neal Drive. Good evening. So, here we are again at another public hearing discussing draconian cuts to school and municipal budgets. It seems to be an annual event. Once again, people from all over our town will decry the deep cuts into the school budget and to the important services in our town will be underfunded so that we can see a lower increase in our tax bill. No one wants to see an increase in the property taxes. Those taxes are high and are tough on many families and seniors here in town. The recent reassessment has caused further consternation as how much more we will pay. But there lies the problem. More to pay. Inflation from the end of the pandemic has been widespread, affecting the world over. Watertown, of course, has not been exempted from this. The cost of the status quo has gone up, and so the options before us are unpleasant. But if I'm to take a side, I will take the side of our children, of our schools, and our town services. We quite correctly take pride in our town, but there is more to pride than slogans or mascots. We need to look toward the future to build and maintain the best Watertown that we can. That means a viable investment in our town services, and especially our schools. It's a cliche to say that our children are the future, yet we have made them the victims of conveniences of the present. What these proposed cuts will do will affect the class sizes in the schools, will affect the resources available to best educate our children, and will demoralize our teachers and staff members in a time when educator morale is already at a low. Look at the top portion of the list of cuts for the schools. Those are not simply a list of job titles. Those are people. Those are our friends, our neighbors, our family members. Those are a helping hand to your children, a person to rely on, a person to learn from, a person to get comfort from. They give their time and their best to our kids, and our thanks to them is a pink slip. So long, thanks, but you're not worth a few extra bucks a year out of my pocket. And it sends a message to potential new families considering our town. We don't care about schools here. That we value the school mascot more than the school child or the school teacher. So we have to ask ourselves, do we care about education in Watertown or do we not? This vote will show us. We know about the infrastructure issues in our town. We drive the roads every day. It isn't the fault of the great people of the Public Works Department. They've been tasked with the impossible. Fix this without the resources. And we ask each and every department, each and every school to do the same. Why? Because we kicked the can down the road so far, for so long, that the bill has come due. And if these cuts happen, as I think they will in some way, despite whatever anyone here may wish, what if next year? Will we once again sit in this auditorium and talk about deep cuts to the town and the schools? Will any of the things that we are deficient on be improved with fewer resources than before? And what about the year after that? When will we get our house in order? Plan long-term, devise new ways to become more efficient, and learn that the best investment a town can make is in itself. Please rethink these cuts. Restore as much funding to the schools and to the town as possible. Then, let's end the stopgap budgeting and come up with real, long-term solutions to these issues. Our children's future demands nothing less. Thank you.
Can we move that microphone so that the speaker is facing us? Thank you.
Eric Weiler, formerly of 363 Turnpike. I can say you did a beautiful presentation. There's only one issue we not speak about. We speak, what I like to speak about, senior citizen. I have a neighbor. She's 92 years old. She still today has to pay the school tax. She paid for her children. She paid for grandchildren. She paid for great-grandchildren. How much more can we get out old people? We need to increase how much they're allowed to earn before we offer them a reduction on their property, school tax in essence. In other states, when you have a certain age, you do not pay the school tax anymore. We need to help senior citizens. We have senior citizens, their house is cold. Okay, we have senior citizens who do not eat every day. We need to do better. That's all I ask for. Do better for the senior citizens who have paid the school tax forever and ever and ever. There has to be somewhere a cutoff. And the cutoff we have for the income level is not enough. We need to bring that income level much higher. Today, a couple on $45,000 who has a mortgage and has enormous electric and heating bills, they can no longer live. We just had locally a couple who committed suicide. They killed each other. They can live no more. We need to do something. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dr. Diane Haggis. I live at 53 Hillside Avenue in Oakville, a place we have lived for 39 years. We raised a family here. My husband and I raised 5 children here, sent them to Watertown schools. Now they're all grown and raised and out and have families of their own. But we're still here, and we're very dedicated to Watertown. In tough economic times, it always creates reductions in every aspect of our lives. Therefore, when the town council suggested reduction in the education budget, it was understandable. However, these children are our strongest resource. They're our most critical asset. What price do you put on the life of a child? Aren't they our future? And what price do you put on that? They will be going out into the world, and they will be taking their hope and their resilience. And we need to provide them a strong education, confidence, resilience, and strength-based knowledge. And that's our responsibility to do. Taking that huge reduction out of our schools is incomprehensible. It is. It does not show a town that has very high expectations for our youth and their future if we are willing to sacrifice so much of their education. Put back that $800,000 into the school budget, support our schools, and support our children. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Steinmetz, 35 Cottage Place. I'm here tonight, excuse me, to vehemently oppose the council's recommendation for a reduction in Dr. Villanueva's proposed Board of Education budget for the 24-25 school year. I'm adamantly against any additional cuts to the funding that our town schools desperately need to ensure quality services and education for our children. When my husband and I moved here about 11 years ago, one of the factors was the quality of our public schools. Now, all these years later, my son is currently a thriving student at Polk, and we're proud to be a part of this community. The idea of cutting the budget before ever putting it out for the public referendum is a true detriment to the families and our community, especially when we consider that the budget was built from zero, and Dr. V has taken into account the needs of all the students in our community. The children are the future of our town, our society, and our world. Although the proposed budget might incrementally increase our taxes, by not valuing education, we will ultimately lower our property values at the expense of our children's education. The superintendent's proposed budget incorporates several necessary items that will serve to improve education for our students. With the increasing awareness around the science of reading, it is imperative for our K-8 schools to continue the good work and improve and evolve our language arts curriculum. Our special education population deserves teachers and paraeducators who have enough time and resources to meet their individual needs. Also, quality special education programming, as Dr. V said, can actually save our town money in the long run. Our buildings need to be safe, well-staffed, and maintained for our students. Our children deserve access to the technology that will help them succeed and be prepared for the new innovations on the horizon. These items are in the currently proposed budget, and they're there for a reason. Lastly, as a public school educator myself, not in Watertown, I know the true costs and sacrifices school personnel make on a daily basis for the enrichment of our children. We need to show our support to the school community, listen to what the experts have deemed important for the betterment of our children. So please reconsider putting that $800,000 back into the proposed budget. Let the people of our town decide where our priorities are in regards to it, and before you put it on the chopping block. Thank you to everyone for all that you've done and all the presentations tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I support the $800,000 cuts on both the municipal...
Excuse me, we need your name for the record.
Catherine Dinsmore. I support the $800,000 cuts on both the municipal side and the Board of Ed side. What I do not support is the school district eliminating teacher positions to reach that $800,000. On a recent social media post, a Board of Ed member posted a slide, which was also shown this evening, which included these staff reductions. 3 teachers at $70,348 each, and 1 teacher at $80,014 for a total of $291,058. A reduction of 1 administrator at $152,703 was also listed. A reduction of a 2nd administrator at a similar salary would save the district $305,406. These combined salaries are approximately equal to that of 4 teachers. The concept of laying off teachers whose primary job is to provide the day-to-day instruction to our students is not the answer. Please leave the teachers in the classroom and rethink your mix of personnel cuts. Thank you.
Al Mickle, 95 Woodbine Avenue. I'm a senior living on a fixed income. I have no children, nor grandchildren, nor great-grandchildren in our system. I've lived in the town for a long time, and I've been involved in local government most of that time. I've been a study of our town budget for many years. I've not studied the Board of Education budget, but I know they do zero-based budgeting. And I'm very glad to hear the town manager is going to pick up that next year. This method produces the most accurate description of educational needs. I have voted yes on every budget since I've been here. The town manager and department heads developed a budget that was acceptable to both parties. I'm sure the department heads requests what they believed was best for the town. The town manager balanced what was asked for between the departments. Now the town council wants to know what the people in the town want to spend their tax dollars on. When the town council, by a majority vote, somehow decided they wanted to lower the Board of Education and the town budget by $800,000 each. This cut in the Board of Education will cost people their jobs. So, with the help of Excel, pivot tables, and slicers, I reviewed most of the town expense line items. I was able to reduce the town budget by a little over $750,000 without cutting jobs. The areas that I reduced were small tools, implements, others, office supplies, training without travel, mileage allowance, civil preparedness, reference materials, furniture, membership, advertising, temporary salaries, and printing and binding. I'll give the town council the spreadsheet for their considerations. So I asked the town to do the right thing. Leave the Board of Education budget request alone, reduce the town budget by $800,000, and let the people decide. Thank you.
Carolyn Boynton of 50 McFingal Road. Good evening. My name is Carolyn, and I'm the PTO president for John Trumbull Primary School. On behalf of our PTO, we ask for you to reinstate the $800,000 to Board of Ed. Losing vital staff members hurts all students. We are here to give our children the best education we can, and taking away this money will hurt them. They are our future. I'm raising 3 children in Watertown at 3 of our schools. I moved here because I knew how great the school system is. I want my children and all the students of this town to have the best experience and education they can have. If you care about the students of Watertown and the many staff members who dedicate their time to our children, please reinstate the money back to Board of Ed. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Young, 368 Hamilton Avenue. Thank you for being here tonight.
Can you speak up a little, please?
Sure. Stepping closer help?
Thank you.
Okay. You got my name and address? Okay. I am the president of SWIFT PTSO, and I'm here on behalf of them and also as a parent. I'm in support of restoring the funds to the proposed education budget. In my time as a parent, having a student in the school system here, I feel like every year we're coming to defend and try to restore something that's being taken away. I commend Dr. Villanuevo's gracious presentation and kind of turning it on its head instead of looking at the cuts. In my experience, I think from one of the first or second years that my daughter was in school here at Judson, some of the first things that were proposed were, packages for experienced, wonderful teachers to leave early to kind of cut the costs. And I remember feeling like that was a really bad idea. I know that's not what's proposed in this, but I feel like still cutting teachers from any position for teachers in the budget is, it's a shame. I see our children doing better than they've ever done since COVID. I see my daughter's improvement. I have friends in this school district and other school district who talk about this being the hardest year they've ever taught in. People who almost don't want to do it anymore. It's hard. I commend teachers, and they're outstanding. And I commend the work that our kids are doing, and taking away any of their resources, it feels wrong. I think that losing teachers, whether particularly ones with time and experience, and if needed. What I've seen is having younger teachers come in, which is great, but they don't stay. And they don't have the mentor of the older teachers who are there to show them how to do the job, how it's been done and being successful. I had other points, but I am definitely nervous. I hate speaking in public. And this seems like a really lame or elementary analogy, but I was thinking about how one of the cuts is going to possibly be the fencing around the new turf that we have. And I feel like it's a great analogy that we have this new and wonderful thing, this turf field, and now we're not going to potentially have something to protect it. And we have all of these new and great resources that we've worked really hard for this past year with the budget that we had last year. And I feel like we're not going to be able to protect those great things that we've gotten this year if we are going to take away from what we've worked so hard for. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's really hard to, that microphone's not working well. It's hard to understand.
Denise Russ, 135 Border Street. I have a few questions. I don't have a statement. I went through the budget, and I just have a few questions. Will I be able to get answers tonight, hopefully?
I don't know, it depends what your questions are.
Okay. On page 11 for planning and zoning,
I can't hear.
it's under automobile equipment and automobile. It's a new budget for $10,000. I'm just wondering what that is.
Okay. Do you know what she asked?
Yes.
I couldn't hear.
She wanted to know the $10,000 line item in planning and zoning, is it a new vehicle?
Okay.
And it is.
It is a new vehicle.
It's
A new
lease-
vehicle.
A lease payment.
Okay. It's not a down payment for a lease or anything.
It is a
lease.
down payment for a lease. So it's a lease to purchase, and I'm not sure if it's 1 or 3 or 4 years, but it's a partial payment.
And then my feeling is, I think the doors to the firehouse and the police department should be put back in the budget because that's a necessity. I mean, the rust and everything that was shown to us from the purchase agent, that's important. So I think that should be put back in the budget. And then on page 16, building inspection, it says assistant building official, excuse me, taken out, and then it's put back under another line item for $70,981 for a new position.
Would you like the answer? I'm not sure, am I on? Yes. Okay, so yes, we had a line item that addressed a part-time building inspector. As we work through our changes in finance, we're going to clean those extra line items out, but basically we added approximately $24,000 to that line item, which makes it a full-time position.
Okay. On economic development, page 18, just a rough estimate, how many people last year used that $1,500 to redo their storefronts?
This is, off the top of my head, I believe it was 4.
Okay. And is this grant money we use, or is this the town putting money in?
This is budgeted money that we use to give back to our business owners for them to improve their facades. And again, it's part of the bigger program that we're using to try and encourage economic development.
Okay. But for 4 people, I would take some of that money and move it someplace that's more important if they're not going to take advantage of it. Page 19, human resources, it has recruitment, excuse me, $6,000, and medical services for $10,000. What is that?
So those are line items that were taken out of other areas of the budget and transferred into the human resource budget. And he will, our new human resource person will be in charge of conducting the physicals for entrance of new employees and the backgrounds. So it's not a new cost, it's just transferred from another area of the budget.
And then on the fire department, page 22, medical service to date was spent $7,125 for this year, but it doubled for next year for medical.
So the fire chief discussed that in his presentation, in which that we had Dr. Zarsti, who has retired, and Dr. Zarsti, I would say, gave us one heck of a deal. And now that we had to go out and find another vendor, the price is a more realistic number of the cost to get those services.
Let's see. Okay, on page 30, under communications, it's the mileage allowance was 106, and this year there's a decrease. Why do they have an allowance anyway for communications? I know it's a small amount, but we pay them for.
Congratulations, you stumped me. I'd have to look to give you that answer.
It's for when they go for training, they get reimbursed.
It would be a reimbursable for training. So if a communicator had to go to, say, Hartford, they were entitled to mileage.
Okay. And on page 38, Public Works, the grant writer that's new in the budget, will that person be a grant writer for all the departments or just specific department?
It was a $15,000 line item that we would hire a grant writer. To be honest with you, just this week, we've engaged a grant writer to do a grant for us. So we'll pull out whatever that cost is as we identify grants that we'd like to go after and we can't do in-house.
Right, but he's not going to be here every day. He'll just come in when it's needed.
It's not an employee. It would be a third-party vendor that we would utilize to assist us in putting a grant together for us.
And then on page 50, they have a $5,000 line item for overtime, and they've already expended it. Who gets the overtime in that department?
What department is it?
Senior Center.
Well, it's
Weekend trips.
it's spread over for different employees, but it's mostly concentrated in covering for weekend trips.
We haven't had any that I know of.
That I couldn't answer at this moment.
That's okay. No. Okay, and then under special events, same department, 10,000 was allocated, and only 4,516 has been spent. Can you, if it's not going to be needed, can we move that to help another department get something that they need? Because we're through the year.
So that is the actual expenditures that you're referencing are from a date in February. So since then, more money has been expended. So I don't think that your numbers would be accurate at this point. And at the end of the year, we do move monies around to help other departments. If there was money left over, we would do that. And if monies were not utilized, it would be turned into the general fund.
Do you have a lot more, Denise?
Nope, I just got a couple more.
Okay.
Excuse me. Okay. Okay, now I'll do my comment. Okay. Last year, you cut $800,000 on both Board of Ed and Town Council. This year, you're cutting $800,000 on both sides. Is this a fixed number every year? I was on the council last year, and the whole town the town council is the budget committee. And we, the minority party, did not get an opportunity to make any suggestions to cut the budget. It's up to the council to cut the budgets, not just say $800 is cut and you leave it to the town manager. I think next year, if you're going to cut, you should have a meeting with the full council, make your own cuts and everything. That's my opinion, because it doesn't happen. And all 9 people weren't privy to the $800 cut. And one other thing, was that grant written for the ARPA money for the senior center?
You're talking about the $63,000 opportunity?
Right.
Yes, it's being worked on, yes.
We only have until June, I believe.
We're aware of it. The senior center director and the new park and rec director are working in conjunction to get that completed.
Thank you. And my other last comment is, I don't want to see the $800,000 cut from the Board of Education. I believe they did a nice job coming in with a 3-point-something%. Now they're down to 2. That's not fair to them. And I just couldn't go on record saying I support the Board of Ed budget with the $800 going back. Thank you.
Denise, wait a minute. It's sometimes difficult to hear, but did I hear you say that we made cuts last year? No, we didn't. We didn't cut last year.
We made $800,000 cut last year on budget.
No, we didn't.
That's right, we put it back. I'm sorry, that is my error. We did put everything back. I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, just to be on the record clear, we did not.
No.
Day Palmer, 267 Bryant Road. I'm not going to make any direct comments about the line items in the budgets. I just got the book tonight, so I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I do believe we need to start thinking outside the box and doing some planning for down the road, as Dr. Villanueva has said. I know there's been a lot of throwing around about closing a school, because our numbers are down, and there's many, many concerns with that, and I agree it's not really a feasible thing to do. But the things I would like to make a comment on is, first of all, we hired a HR person to do evaluations on our employees, and then we went ahead and gave every department head a 3% raise. Well, in the real world, every department head isn't worth a 3% raise. Some are worth more, some are worth less. I'd like to see that looked at for next year so that the ones we have that do a good job get what they deserve. I'd also like to see us start considering a lot more about shared services. So the highway department has a skid steer unit on their line item. And I know it's a great unit, and I know it comes with all sorts of attachments to do a lot of things we need, but the town already owns 3 of them between the Parks Department and the Board of Education. So can't they just buy the attachments they need and then borrow the machine when they need it rather than pay for a whole machine? I mean, it is time to look at it. And when you put up the budget cuts of $800,000, I realize you have to start somewhere, you have to pick a number, and you have to work with it. Because if you don't put out a number there, nobody knows what they're working toward. I don't appreciate going after the teachers either, or any of the staff. That to me is not fair to our students. Then again, it's the biggest thing that gets the people out, because it gets them riled up about cutting. So it's the easiest way to not have to cut. But again, if we go back and look at your maintenance department, we don't have as much snow, we don't have as much other things. Can't we start thinking about going down the road? Now, I'm not saying get rid of any employees we have at the moment, but as they leave, hire outside contractors to do the snow removal or whatever as we need it, because we need it a lot less than we used to need it. And the cost of equipment is doing nothing but going up. Now, I can tell you from experience, since we build fire trucks, 4 years ago, a pumper cost about $600,000. The one we bid last week was $1.2 million. So get ready, and most of that is driven by the cost of the emissions on the engines going down the road. And so you're going to see those costs anything that gets shipped by truck is going to go up. All your highway trucks are going to go up. Everything is going up, so we need to start planning a lot better on what we're doing. On the town assisting in doing dirt roads, non-maintained town roads, and whether we're going to pay for them, and whether we should be putting in water and sewer lines for wherever. Right now, I know you've got one in the budget to go on Route 6, heading toward Thomaston, because somebody wants to do a development up the road so he can get it connected. Well, going back 10 years, those developers had to do that themselves. The town should not be paying to have any of that kind of work done. If there's a developer involved, then they should pay to have the water and sewer removed. I do agree with Jerry that we need to look at water and where we're going to get our water from, because I don't think many people realize that the main water for this town comes down from Waterbury right through under Smith Pond, right down through, and if that main ever broke, like when they were fixing the Wilson Street Bridge, because we all know they were really close to the pipe, if you broke that, we'd be out of water in 2 days with no other place to get water. So we do need to start thinking about where we're going to get our water from if something should happen. And the last thing, I do have a whole long list, but I don't want to keep you all here all night either. I would like to request that we put in a finance/oversight board, where whether you put it in like you do a charter revision and you're looking to accomplish a certain project, where a group of diversified people could sit down and look at line by line by line by line in our town budget and see where we could share services or make cuts or plan for the future. I really think that would be a great thing for this town of Watertown. And thank you all for all your time tonight.
Good evening. My name is Bethany Cordero, 684 Lake Winnemucca Road. I'd like to thank the Town Council and the Board of Education for this opportunity to share thoughts as not only a parent, but a member of the Judson School PTO. As we've digested the numbers presented before us, it's without a doubt not the time to pull any resources from our children. It is fair to say that all of my son's teachers, as well as my husband and I, have paid out of their own pockets for basic necessities: pencils, notebooks, paper, Kleenex. It's almost hard to believe that we have come to a crossroad of figuring out which teacher, never mind four, is unessential to nurturing progress in our classrooms. It's fair to say that the dynamics of teaching and the needs of students has changed dramatically through cultural norms and sadly through our time trudging through COVID. We all know that the topic of COVID has desensitized us and feels like a cop-out right now, but the damage socially, emotionally, and educationally has been only slowly repairable. Each student requires much more attention to foster their learning at no fault of their own. Societal norms have changed dramatically. School has conventionally been a safe place for our kids, and this cut will without a doubt affect school culture in this town. Examples of the detriments of this budget include the simple act of our children being in a reasonably sized classroom and establishing scheduled norms through education. Testing scores have slowly recovered over the last 2 years post-COVID, with positive reinforcement in classrooms of reasonable size. Children remembering and learning again social cues to be good to peers, friends, and classmates outside of their immediate home and family members. Most of us on the PTO have been actively involved in the Watertown education system since our children were in kindergarten in 2017. We've stood in this very place begging for reinstitution of funds. This coming school year, several of us have children going to middle school. We have both objectively and subjectively seen our children grow academically and socially to 2020, and then have to learn again how to grow through all the social norms post-COVID. As a PTO, we are grateful and very lucky to have so many families actively support our endeavors to raise money for curriculum enrichment. However, as the Board of Ed budget dwindles, the burden to fund projects historically covered by various areas of the Board of Ed has grown immensely and has changed the optics in which we continue to fundraise. With respect from the Judson PTO, we ask you reconsider the possible stifling deficit in funding our children's education. Thank you.
Hi, Mike Murphy, 70 Main Street, Oakville. I'm here tonight to support the full school budget as proposed by Dr. Villanueva to go to vote. And I want to thank the town council for making the right decision last year by trusting the town and trusting the democratic process to put forward the full budget last year and allow us to, as a town, come out and show that we do support our school system and want to fully fund it. Dr. Villanueva has put forward a modest, bare bones budget that's well in line with the things that are happening in our dirt, and there's no fat to cut in that budget. Any cuts that are made are going to be cutting into the muscle and the bones of our school system, and anyone making accusations that putting staff and teachers on a list of cuts is a scare tactic is unfortunately incorrect. There's just no way to create a cut of the magnitude that's being suggested without cutting staffing. And that's gonna have a direct impact on our students' experience. It's gonna increase class sizes. And I'm a teacher myself, not in the school system, but we are in a teacher shortage, and I see the results of that every single day. If we're making cuts that are not only losing the teachers that are on that list, you're losing a lot more. You're losing morale, you're losing the ability to retain teachers, you're losing the ability to attract new teachers to the district, and it's gonna start a downward spiral of not being able to not only maintain what we have, but even do anything to keep it from dwindling. I thought the analogy of maintaining the plant was very apt. I also want to thank whoever's responsible for ensuring that there's childcare here tonight. My second grader and my fourth grader are off having a great time in the gym. Before I came in here, I asked them what are some things that they appreciate about the school system, some of the things they like about the school system. We just came here from the math game night that they had a blast at. My daughter just participated in the Aladdin show, which was an absolutely fantastic presentation. But I asked them what are some of the things they like about school, and to quote my second grade daughter, John Trumbull makes learning fun. I'm a little bit sad that it's going to be her last year there because it's been such a great school for them to be a part of. I'm glad that the myth of closing a school is being dispelled because schools are not merely containers for children. They're thoughtfully designed learning environments, and John Trumbull is a great example of that. Just every time I've toured that building, it's amazing to see how they're utilizing that space to make it as welcoming an environment for students to learn as well. My fourth grader, Ada, said Polk has some of the best teachers around, and they specifically named Miss Mecca, Miss Gaelic, Miss Carmody as administrators who they love, and they really see that there's top to bottom enthusiasm for the learning that's happening in those schools. The K through 5 reading program was mentioned in the budget presentation. So on a recent trip to a museum, my second grader happened to notice an exhibit on Dolly Madison that she recognized because of the history connections that are being made in that English language arts curriculum that's being entertained. My second grader recognizes Dolly Madison? Like, this is amazing. My fourth grader is talking about how much she loves using iReady. She's learning to measure angles, multiply fractions. She said she was really enjoying the Big 7 division technique they've been learning. And again, it's like, what do you like about school? I really like learning about division techniques. Like, we're doing something right here. So the joy for learning that the Watertown Public School System has fostered in my children is just undisputably so valuable, not just for them, but for everyone who's in this district that's being able to take advantage of it. And I would really hate to see anything happen that would jeopardize the quality of the education that's happening here. It's a testament to the dedication of talent from top to bottom, from the central office all the way down to the paraprofessionals and, of course, the teachers. So please let us as a town vote on the full budget as proposed to show how much we value the quality education that's happening in the Watertown Public School System. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mindy Davidson, and I reside at 444 Buckingham Street in Oakville. When I sat down to write this, I went back and looked at past years' talking points, keyword being years. Why is it that we as parents have to fight every single year to get more money needed for our children's education? Each and every year it is a battle, but if it helps in any way, it seems to be worth it. This year, though, I feel a little let down. I feel as though the teamwork seems to have gotten a strong kink to it. I know how incredibly hard the people of this town work. They saw their homes being reevaluated, and some saw their values skyrocket. You can see the fear, the anger, the nervousness all over social media every single day. And for our seniors who may not be on social media, they worry in silence on how they might pay their next bill. However, we still need them to be on the same page. We need to give the same message, and we need to shout together from the same rooftop. $800,000 is being cut from the Board of Education. I hear people ask every single day why schools need more money each and every year. Why can't they just do with what they have? Why do they always need so much? While these answers are not always simple, they are not complex either. If you think of a school system as a simple business, then ask yourself what business today, as of April of 2024, will go forth until April 2025 with not one dime more than they used since 2023. Can you name one? Can you tell me that there is one business that has not had an increase in lights, heat, property tax, insurance, or something as simple as the cost of paper or cleaning supplies? Or is there a business out there that has employees that have all said, we don't need a raise this year, yet we'll still pay more for health insurance at the same time? I can assure you there is not. So why do we expect a Board of Education and schools to do this each and every year? You have all now seen where the $800,000 in cuts will be coming from. Respectfully, I disagree with a former speaker tonight that thinks that we got people to come out tonight to speak because of personnel cuts. I would have loved to have seen this auditorium packed because of that. Maybe if we cut sports, we might pack the auditorium. The majority of it is our people. Some of them live in this town and they work in it. They pay the same taxes. But now what do we tell them? I have had the pleasure of working in all 5 schools at one point or another. I admire our teachers and sit back and watch our administrators with what they have to do on a daily basis in awe. I want to take a moment and ask you to all think back to just over 4 years ago when the teachers, staff, administrators, and students walked out of our schools on a random Friday afternoon, March 13th, 2020 to be exact. It was a sunny Friday afternoon, and we spent the day planning St. Patrick's Day items coming up. But then all of a sudden, these teachers and administrators and children didn't walk back into their second homes until almost 6 months later. And make no mistake, some of these children rely on these schools as their second home. They didn't see their friends or play sports or sit on a beanbag next to their friend to read a book. Everything changed. From the mechanics of a lesson delivery to one-on-one conversations, flexibility and resilience were tested each and every day. We have not, nor will we, return to what life was like before March of 2020. Today, our students have so many different needs because of this. They struggle with engagement, they need antidotes to their constant uncertainty and fear, and need constant encouragement to what they can do and that it will be okay. One student needs all of that every day. Now add in 25 more of them. With all the different needs and wants and levels of understanding, can you just for a moment imagine what a classroom looks like with 26 desks and chairs and little people in it? However, if you want to be filled with hope for the future, spend time in a classroom around our educators and our students. The amount of magic that educators create in a single day is unparalleled. They are inspired to touch the minds of those 26 students each and every day. The $800,000 is going to dim the lights, figuratively and realistically, in our schools. It doesn't need to. Last year, you sent the budget to vote as it was presented to you without any cuts. Our town came out and voted, and it passed. Why would you not do that again? Why would you not let the people come out and use their voice? If we want our schools to succeed, we need to believe in them as places of possibility. We need to invest in them, care for them, and nurture them. And that includes thinking about the people and the students who are in our schools and how we can support them. Thank you.
Hi, Frankie Popolowski, Chestnut Avenue in Oakville. I have a couple of questions and a couple of comments. The one thing I don't see is how much is in the bank, for lack of a better word, has the water and sewer put aside for this lawsuit?
Do you want me answering now? You would not find that information in a budget presentation. You could look at our auditing book, and the fund balances for those items are in that audit book.
Okay, how much is in there?
Off the top of my head, I do not know.
Mark, you have said that every single time somebody asks that question. You don't have it off the top of your head, but you do know. Nobody, half this town doesn't realize that everybody that lives here is going to be responsible for that debt. Even the people that are not on water and sewer, and I've said this before, everybody is going to be responsible that lives in this town. You have the municipalities that run on water and sewer, everything. But nobody understands that. So when can we get an amount that you have put away?
Again, you could be, I'm referring you to the audit, and you could find those numbers in the audit.
Yep, okay. Going through the book tonight, there's Assistant Finance Director for $94,742. Is this a part-time position still?
No, it is not. It's a full-time position, and the person that is in that position works less than 35 hours. So she's not paid at an hourly rate that uses all the money. Any money that's left over would go back into the general fund or be adjusted to cover other expenses.
Well, maybe you should put this in the budget where it belongs. Don't keep saying, well, we'll just throw this over to the general fund. You know that they're not going to be spending $94,000 on this person. You know it's under 40 hours a week. So put it where it belongs. But you keep budgeting up on this amount, and nobody really knows where the rest of the money is going. Well, this is not going to be very popular for all of the people on the Board of Ed. I did a couple of some research on the police department and schools, meaning police officers and teachers. The population in Watertown is 22,045 people. We have 40 officers. That is one police officer for 551 residents. That's pretty low. And there are 2,579 students with 208 teachers, with a ratio of 12 students for every teacher. That's a pretty small class. That, I know you don't want to lose your jobs, but we have to, figure out a way that this budget isn't going to go out of control. So, I also saw that Watertown is rated in the bottom 50% of all the schools in Connecticut. That's not great. And I think that needs to be looked at. It doesn't sound like we're producing a lot of good students. No, so I don't care. I don't care. I pay for it every year and I don't have any kids. So, thanks.
I know.
Good evening. Elio Longo, I reside at 83 Bella Vista Drive. Firstly, I would like to thank all of the panel members, Town Council, Board of Education members, Town Manager, Dr. V, as well for affording us this opportunity to address the various boards this evening. If I may, I have a handout that I would like to reference. So my comments this evening will center more at a macro level of the town's budgeting process versus, trying to identify $5,000 line items here or there in order to address a potential $1.6 million reduction combined between the Board of Ed and the town. Based on an analysis here, if we take a look at the annual comprehensive financial report, which was formerly known as the CAFR report, It's the end product of the fiscal year on June 30th. Your independent auditors produce a 100-page manual. It's the CAFR report. If you take a look at certain fund balances, because that was a topic that was brought up by several speakers this evening, I believe it should be of particular interest here are our internal service funds. So every municipality operates with a general fund balance. They also have business entity type fund balances, such as Parks and Recs, or within the Board of Education, you have your cafeteria fund. And then we also have the Internal Service Revenue Fund. What differentiates the Internal Service Revenue Funds from every other type of fund is that the primary source of revenue is from internal departments, where on the business entities, your primary source is from external entities. So having said that, if we take a look at the strong headwinds that the town is facing today and has probably faced for the past decade or so, they are in health and dental benefits and in workers' compensation, and also in your general revenue fund balance. If you take a look at the top of the matrix here in the health and dental benefits, we'll look back to 2016. As a town, we were operating with a healthy, pardon the pun, for the benefits, beginning fund balance of approximately $400,000. But we ended the year in the negative $500,000, given that the expenses had exceeded the revenue by approximately $900,000. If you fast forward through the years and you arrive at the most recent CAFR, which is online and available, which was for fiscal year 22, we now have a fund balance, a negative $1.2 million. So the way that internal service funds ought to operate or should operate by design is that over time, it should break even. There shouldn't be a profit motive as you would have in a business entity fund. So if we take a look at the top line of revenue for healthcare, 2016 being an outlier, all of the other years were flat funded at approximately $14.5 million. Yet the expenses had grown from $12.5 million to almost $15 million. In comparison, 2017 to 2016, revenues were up 24%, yet the expenses were only up 12%. So it looks like there was an attempt perhaps in 2017 to right the ship, if you will, because the fund balance was back to positive $28,000. What I find concerning now is that over the course now of 6-7 years, there's a negative fund balance of $1.2 million. You compound that next with the Workers' Compensation Fund. Workers' Compensation Fund in 2016 had a negative end-of-year balance of $2.4 million. That's nowhere near zero. $2.4 million. It looks like over the course of 2 to 3 years, you shaved that deficit by approximately $1 million. But where are we today? We're at a negative $3 million on the workers' compensation. Combined health and workers' compensation as of fiscal year 22, and you have a negative fund balance of $4.2 million. So what does this mean? In terms of the expenditures, all claims have been paid, right? You haven't booked them as a liability. They don't appear as being outstanding liabilities or APs at this time. So the question, it begs the question that how did you cover these expenditures? If I had to guess here, we covered as a town, we covered the expenditures by draining other accounts within the general fund. So the general fund substantially supported the health and workers' comp service funds. I really think that's the elephant in the room, and that's where some attention should be given, because the only way to right the ship, if you will, so we're not facing cuts of $800,000 and $100,000 in the future and bickering over $4,000, $5,000 here and there, which is really not going to solve the problem for the town moving forward. I've been working very closely with Mr. Lukowski on a personal concern. I find that he's been very professional, and I think he's really trying and doing his best here as being fairly new to the town, and I thank him for his time. But if you take a look again at the CAFR report, it's a 100-page document. Unless you're an accountant or you have a degree in finance, maybe it shouldn't interest you or doesn't interest you, but it should interest you because there's a lot of information, that valuable information coming out of that CAFR report. Every municipality reports statistics. So if you take a look towards the end of the CAFR report, you'll find statistics by various departments. Jerry, just to point to Public Works here, so you're operating with a third less employees, went from 30 down to 20, okay? There were recent subdivisions in recent years here that added another 21 miles of roadway. Well, if you take a look at the second page of my handout this evening under Public Works, street resurfacing, back in 2013-14, we were averaging 2 to 3, 4 miles per year of resurfacing. How many roads are we resurfacing in recent years? 1.5, 1.4 miles. Yet we've added 21 miles on it. Take a look at the next line item, pothole repairs. Back in 2013, 14, 15, on average, 200, 300 potholes per year. Now take a look at 22 and 21, 1,800 potholes per year. So we need to make an investment in our infrastructure here, okay? Not addressing the elephant in your room, which my understanding is my belief is the Internal Service Fund, is taking money away from other important areas of town, whether they're on the town side or whether they're on the Board of Education side. Dr. V, I applaud your business acumen when you point out the growth rate for the Board of Education. It's very reasonable. You're not an outlier within DIRG-D at all. You're looking to make use of fund balances. I don't know if there's a current arrangement between the Board of Ed and the town for a carryover account, but that is permissible under state statute here. And what that prevents is the Board of Education from running out by June 30th and expending every single dollar that has been allocated, right? So that you only spend what you need to spend, all right? When we take a look at budgets, and even as you set up your budget for next year, the information that you've been handed shows where the current budget is, year-to-date expenditures as of mid-February, and then for 99% of the categories, the projection to fiscal year end is the same number as the beginning budget. That plan is to spend to budget. So I would suggest, just for the Board of Education and the town here, perhaps you come together on a carryover account so that if there are any surplus dollars in the Board of Education side, they can be used for non-recurring expenditures the following year so that we can minimize the number of cuts should that be presented by the council for an upcoming budget. Other creative practices as well, Dr. V, perhaps on the Board of Education side, fiscal year 22, the cafeteria fund ended with a restricted fund balance of $300,000 to $400,000. At times, you can apportion a cost of custodial time, utilities. I'm not sure if you're doing that, not doing that, but that may save 1 or 2 positions as well as the custodial time, or that could pay for the fencing as well. These are certain offsets. Now, there's been mentioned tonight about various grants. Grants are great. They're great until they dry up. So my only recommendation on the grant side is that the grant side, unless they're entitlement grants such as IDA, which supports special education and the like, that they supplement our current activities and they do not supplant our current budgeting, because all we're doing there is we're kicking down the road. So I appreciate this venue this evening and even this opportunity to speak to the various boards this evening during the open discussion, if you will, rather than a format which is followed by the town where public comment is after public meeting agendas have been addressed. So I find this to be a very valuable venue, and I hope you can take some of my input into consideration. Thank you.
Richard Rosansky, 35 Reynolds Street. Just want to go on the record that I support the town council's cuts both on the municipal side and the Board of Ed side. I know it's a very difficult situation, and I understand that you're trying to reduce the rate of increase, not reduce anybody's existing budget, but reduce the rate of increase to benefit those taxpayers, especially those who are in precarious positions such as our senior poor and our working poor. So I just want to go on the record and say that I do support what you're doing. I wish it could have been done with more finesse, but I understand what the situation is. Just wanted to talk a little bit about water and sewer. We say that the WSA is an enterprise, and yet the entire town votes on the enterprise's budget rather than just the ratepayers. Yet just the ratepayers are responsible for the costs, such as this ongoing lawsuit with Waterbury. So I'm not sure if maybe part of this budget is really ad valorem taxes that all taxpayers pay and not just the ratepayers. It's just not clear to me. We don't discuss the fire district's budget. They're an enterprise. But yet, all taxpayers, all residents vote on the WSA's budget. So I'm a little bit confused. I hope as we move forward, we can get more clarity. We know we have the opportunity on April 15th to resolve the issue with Waterbury. I hope we can come to a settlement. I hope it doesn't continue on. We're over the $20 million mark now, what we owe Waterbury, and all the ratepayers on the hook for that. And it's going to be a very, very painful expense, in addition to any tax increases we have this year. So I just hope, as we move forward, we can get some more clarity on the WSA. Is it an enterprise? Is it not an enterprise? And what portion of that budget is paid by all taxpayers versus just the ratepayers? Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else that would like to address us? All right, seeing none, I will open up to any Board of Ed person that would like to make a comment.
Good evening. Cindy Lopes-Phelan. I'm a member of the Board of Ed. I'm going to start off first by thanking all the members of the Town Council, Dr. Villanueva, members of the Board of Education, and all the residents that came out tonight, this evening, to listen to some important messages being brought forth. As one of the newest members of the Board of Education, this will be my second budget cycle that I've been able to see firsthand from start to finish. The development of the budget begins with each school's principals presenting to the board their needs for their individual schools and their students. It was clear during these presentations to hear the passion, the vision behind these requests, along with the love that they have for the students in their care. The original budget presented by Dr. Villanueva was created from these requests using her knowledge, support from the staff, guidance on what is needed for these students in the Watertown school system. Dr. Villanueva and her staff have been transparent on the costs associated with running a school system. These expenditures are all available for everyone to see on the Board of Education website. Dr. Villanueva has consistently presented during the Board of Education meetings the goals and the needs for the school system to fulfill the objectives outlined in the vision of a graduate plan. This plan's focus is to provide the necessary components for students graduating from the Watertown school system to be empowered with the knowledge, skills, and characteristics that they will need to succeed later in life. Much like that plant in Dr. Villanueva's office, needing water and sustained with water, Dr. Villanueva's original budget contained the critical components necessary to help these students succeed. To quote her, "We want these children to excel." I am here tonight to request that the Town Council listen to the voices of the administrators, our superintendent, those who presented and who work directly with the students. I request that the Town Council restore the Board of Education budget back to the original request proposed by Dr. Villanueva, and let the residents of the town of Watertown make the final decision.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Lawton. 13 is the number of staff positions potentially at jeopardy of being eliminated if the proposed budget cuts move forward without adjustment. Positions that we know historically would be unlikely to be replaced once eliminated, undoing years of hard work, fighting steep budget cuts that set us back. With last year's fully funded budget and the interventions and restructuring that allowed, the districts have already seen jumps in the percentage of students meeting grade level targets with the most recent assessments. For example, Swift jumped from 31% to 43% of students meeting grade level targets. And as Dr. V mentioned, there's already been recuperation of some special education costs. That is what a fully funded budget can do. The proof is in the numbers. There is abundant literature that shows the close ties between class size and educational outcomes. if we are forced to move forward with such substantial cuts, which result in the loss of staff, and these outcomes and numbers are not as positive next year, we'll know why, and it has nothing to do with the caliber of our educators. Teachers and staff are confronted with rising diverse needs they have to accommodate, from behavioral to socio-emotional, special education, language, and physical needs to benefit the whole child. And I can tell you firsthand, they go above and beyond. I couldn't do their job. More so, if facilities funding is jeopardized and we kick the can down the road with important repairs, we put ourselves at risk for larger infrastructure failures, and we know how that works out because we just finished the capital improvement process for failing roofs and HVAC systems. We come every year begging to soften the blow to our school system, and last year was a tremendous success. We worked together, and we sent a fully funded budget to referendum, and it passed. The results have been widespread and have directly impacted the students in more ways than numbers and standardized tests can measure, just like Mr. Murphy tonight mentioned the growth of his children and what they're picking up in knowledge. We have positive momentum and exciting promise. We're finally getting back on track after years of cuts, yet now we're faced with cuts that could be another devastating blow. If we cut teachers, paras, and other staff, the students lose. Class sizes are already above 20, just to clarify from an earlier comment. If we cut special education funding, we may end up back asking for an appropriation. We can't cut funding for unfunded state mandates because they're mandates, and there's nothing left to cut from sports and arts. Watertown High School Theater, which is the largest extracurricular program, is already not even a line item, it's fully self-funded. And any parent who has a child in the sports programs here can tell you that while we already have a pay-to-play system, the costs always go beyond that. Team boosters and parents are in a constant state of fundraising for every sport to help provide equipment and supplies. I can't even tell you how many raffle tickets I've been seeing for sale lately with the onset of spring sports. If anyone wants some, I'm happy to connect you with the lacrosse or baseball teams. What I fail to understand as we approach this budget season again is how this is being justified in the big picture. A school system is the shining star of any community. It's the draw and the magnet for families to put down roots and to stay. I have children in 3 of our schools currently, and I can tell you that parents are watching closely. And parents are also your constituents. They're frustrated, and in this wild real estate market, people want to know that their investments are worthwhile. Are we considering this big picture, or are we operating in fear over a potential increase when we haven't even set the new mill rate yet? I do understand and appreciate the concern for rising taxes and members of this town, though I don't think there's anywhere that we can escape rising taxes. I've been a single mom for more years than I have not. I will never forget the time I bounced a $10 check to the John Trumbull PTO when my older children were small, and I have never been remiss to remember what that felt like whenever we enter these discussions. But even back in my check bouncing days, long before my time on the Board of Education, you never saw me up here opposing a budget. Quite the contrary, I've been advocating for the budget to pass from year to year because I understand it benefits the greater good, even with what is soon to be 2 children in college. I also wrote my first letter to the Town Times when I was 9 years old. It was about financial irresponsibility in government. I don't know why I was doing that at 9, but suffice it to say, not much has changed. As we go through the budget process each year, I ask questions. I seek to understand how things play into the big picture and the strategic plan, from the large scale down to the student. I need to be convinced before I can confidently ask other people to be convinced. And I can say at this point, I'm convinced we need to get on board. Dr. Villanueva and Ms. Marie Kashuba have done a phenomenal job creating a fiscally responsible zero-based budget. They showed you that had it been flat funded, the original proposal would have been even higher, but there were already reductions before it even came across your table. Ms. Kashuba shared at one of our recent meetings that we're on track to meet our budget this year. Systematic planning from Dr. V and Ms. Kashuba's meticulous planning and accounted, we have allowed for the Board of Education to do exactly what they planned with last year's fully funded budget, and it's resulted in great success across the district. There's so much collaborative potential to reduce costs, as Dr. V mentioned, and we as a board were dedicated to continuing to advocate for increased state funding as well. Let's not go backwards. We did a great thing last year, so please reconsider the reductions. Thank you.
Tonight you've heard and are going to hear about the effects of larger classrooms on students, as well as many other facts and figures regarding the Board of Education's zero-based budget and the direct effect it will have on our students. You cannot compare the classrooms of even a decade ago to today. Students are different, teachers are different, classrooms are different, the world is different. I want to do a little exercise with you. You don't have to answer the questions, just ponder on them. Name the 5 wealthiest people in the world. Name the last 5 winners of the Miss America pageant. Name 10 people who have won the Nobel or Pulitzer Prize. How did you do? The point is, none of us remember the headliners of yesterday, and these are no second-rate achievers. They are the best in their fields. But the applause dies, awards tarnish, achievements are forgotten, accolades and certificates are buried with their owners. Here's another quiz. See how you do. Name a few teachers who aided your journey through school. Name 5 people who have taught you something worthwhile. Name a few people who have made you feel appreciated and special. That one's easier, isn't it? I bet you remember the teachers who helped you, who inspired you, who taught you something valuable you still carry with you today. The lesson? The people who make a difference in your life are not the ones with the most credentials, the most money, or the most awards. They simply are the ones who cared the most. Our teachers, with their unwavering dedication and passion for education, left a lasting mark on our lives. They were the architects of our intellectual and emotional growth, guiding us through the complexities of learning and instilling in us a love for knowledge that has endured through the years. Their influence extended far beyond the boundaries of the classroom as they imparted wisdom and nurtured our potential, shaping us into the individuals we are today. I want you to think about what your teachers, your education, and your school meant to you. I want you to feel that. I bet you're smiling. As you reflect on those days, our minds are flooded with images of the teachers who shaped our lives and the classrooms that provided the backdrop for so many lasting memories. We hold these memories dear because they are a testament to the power of education and the impact of our teachers. Our classrooms were places where we explored, questioned, and discovered, where we stumbled and picked ourselves up again, fortified by the unwavering support of our teachers. As we look back on those years, we are reminded of the magic of learning and the profound influence of our teachers. We carry with us the lessons they imparted, the memories they helped create, and the foundation they laid for our future endeavors. Now I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the new little ones that for the first time get to experience the memories you had. And just as we're having this discussion tonight, this same discussion was had with your parents and your grandparents, the need to invest in our students and our schools. I want you to think about what Watertown Public Schools has produced. Teachers who now teach in our very own schools, business owners, professional sports players, political leaders, actors, decorated military veterans, the list goes on and on. We must allow the future generations the opportunity to experience what you received and the generations before have received. I'm going to leave you with one last thing to ponder. Please listen to these figures. 1958, 5 cents. 1981, 20 cents. 2001, 34 cents. 2018, 50 cents. 2024, 68 cents. That's the price of a postage stamp. That has increased 3,300%. Just like everything else in life, costs go up, including education. We are not asking for this money because we want to play with it. We want to invest in our children so they can continue to pursue knowledge, to cherish the value of education, and to pass on the torch of learning to future generations. Thank you.
The current Board of Education operating budget, as presented by the superintendent, is zero-based. In other words, it is put together line by line as the needs of the district dictate. There is no fluff, there is no hidden money, and there is no rainy day fund in this budget. If this $800,000 reduction stands, it's going to result in the loss of staff, including an administrator, teachers, secretaries, nursing position, and paraprofessionals. The end result would be higher class sizes, and most certainly less one-on-one time between students and teachers. That is not only not beneficial, it's a step backwards. In addition to those losses, the reduction in funds would reduce funding in all our building budgets in all of our schools, which would just prolong needed maintenance and upgrades. This budget represents the operational needs of Watertown Public Schools. Therefore, I wholeheartedly support the education budget as originally presented by the Superintendent of Schools. And I would call on my colleagues and the Town Council to please restore this $800,000 reduction so we can move forward and not backward and maintain the same high standard of a quality education every parent of our students has come to expect.
It is not lost on me or anyone else who cares enough to be in this auditorium tonight that our town, our schools, and our tax rate are important to all of us. Although we have different views and needs, we believe that all our voices should be heard. I will begin my testimony this year exactly as last year's, because we have all been here before. This is my 4th budget season as a member of the Board of Ed, and my 44th as a taxpayer in Watertown. What I didn't share was how 38 of those years I was a teacher in this very town in which I reside and a parent of 2 children who attended our schools for 13 of those years. We had many conversations when they saw budgets defeated, and they wondered why, in their eyes, their hometown took opportunities away from them. I am no longer an employee or a parent of school-age children, but came onto the board committed to strengthen our schools and hopefully make a difference in the town that I love. Last year, we celebrated a budget that passed with no reductions on the first vote. Changes in what we could offer our children have grown. Much-needed supports and interventions have been put in place, and we are embarking on a plan that can begin to address special education costs and the gap between actual spending and what is reimbursable to our town. As many have repeated tonight, it is a zero-based budget, and many hours go into the final number presented in Dr. V's final requests. She is our leader and our overseer. I respect and trust her requests. As she repeated this evening, she was able to bring down our budget request from the number it was, just accounting for salary increases. Yes, we are a large percentage of the budget, but we are also the largest employer and have a profound responsibility, and that is our children and their futures. Strong public schools equals strong communities. I am working to have both in Watertown. As I have said before, I am a senior citizen as well, with the same concerns and a fixed income. I am a taxpayer too. We budget for what we want in our retirement, and we look forward to enjoying our golden years and feel the impact of rising costs. Our homes have risen in value too. I know we can't keep kicking the can down the road. It always catches up, and it just costs more. By attending tonight, you have gathered information, you have listened to your neighbors, your elected officials, and our town and board leaders. You see where the cuts will be and the devastating effects it will have on our schools and our children. It is not the educational system of 20 or 30, or in my case, 50 years ago, with the same needs, the same curriculum, or the same family or community support. We are determined not to go backwards. After all, isn't it the purpose of education to develop thinkers and to improve and progress? Those of us who attended schools have children in schools, or work in education know the costs associated with a quality education. It is not all measured in dollars and cents. This is step one that decides the amounts that we will vote on at referendum. Therefore, I am asking the members of the Town Council to reconsider the $800,000 cuts on both sides and put the full original amounts requested out to our residents to approve or oppose. Getting the vote out is step two. Our local elections and referendums are the most critical votes I feel you can cast. Our town, our schools, and our futures are determined by each of our votes. I implore all residents to mark your calendars and make it a priority to vote. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else on the board side? Okay. We received emails relative to the budget. Mr. Ramsey is going to read the names of the individuals that contacted us. A copy of each email has been given to the council members so that they can review them as often or as diligently as they wish to do so. And they will be attached to the minutes of the meeting. Mr. Ramsey.
Thank you, and I'll promise to go through these quick. We have Brian and Jen May would like the $800,000 cut restored. Kelsey Drassi, I believe, not in favor of the $800,000 reduction to the schools. Laura Ramden, not in favor of Board of Ed budget cuts. Sarah and James Serber does not support the reduction of the Board of Education budget. Alex Webster, not in favor of the Board of Ed cuts. Kelly Lambert, also not in favor of the Board of Ed cuts. Kathleen Washburn, not in favor of the Board of Ed cuts. Jen Grable, not in favor of the Board of Ed cuts. Allison Peru, not in favor of the Board of Ed cuts as well. Keegan Finlinson does not support the Board of Ed budget cuts, and Echo Suter also is not in favor of the Board of Ed cuts. Simple enough.
Is there any council member present that would like to make a statement? Any council member present that would like to make a statement? I know Mrs. Ryan is attending the meeting by Zoom. Has she indicated to anyone that she wants to speak? I can't hear you.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, I will keep this very brief because everybody who spoke tonight had absolutely incredible things to say and supported what I said in our meeting in which we took the vote where I voted in the negative because I feel it is important to send the full budget to the town for the referendum, and I support putting back the $800,000 into the school board budget, absolutely. And if people would consider the $800,000 for the town budget as well. Thank you.
All right, hearing all comments that have been made, this is the time when we would close the hearing. First, I will tell you that the budget will be discussed at the council's meeting on Monday, and that's when the figures will be voted on, and the numbers that are going to referendum will be determined. Other than that, the hearing is closed.